stop bullying and shouting at the lower orders?
Never! There's only one way to win a campaign. Shout, shout, and shout again!
This is Shot and Shield.
Listening in Christchurch, England, Babang in the Philippines, and Kenosha, Wisconsin, this is the Shot and Shield Supercast, a podcast dedicated to 19th century wargaming and history, a program meant to be heard while you're painting your miniatures and building your terrain. I am your host, the Grand Duke Scott of the Duchy of Florida, and in this episode, be joined by Claude Bailey as we answer some emails. We got a ton of emails. Let me tell you, this got a ton of emails. I had to bring in reinforcements to answer them today. So that's what I'm going to do. And also, a little bit later, I have a repeat presentation of Under Two Flags from Lux Theater from 1937. I had a lot of requests for this, and I also have a little surprise for you when I reintroduce Under Two Flags, and that's coming up later in the program. But first, I do have a few announcements for you.
Hang on a minute, lads.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. It's time to update your event calendar.
First off, in London, there is the Victorian Military Society seminar on the Anglo-Sikh Wars at the National Army Museum on Saturday, April 29th from 11 to 4, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. The very distinguished panel of speakers includes friends of the podcast, Gurinder Singh Mann and Dr. Chris Bryce, and they'll be joining Neil Carlton and Armapal Singh Sidhu to talk about the Anglo-Sikh War. Tickets are £15 for VMS members and £17.50 for non-members. More information on the web at victorianmilitary.org. That's victorianmilitary.org. A couple of conventions of note coming up. In Kissimmee, Recon Wargaming Convention, April 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th at the Wyndham Resort. More information for this convention at hmgs-south.com. And in Nashville, Tennessee, NashCon Miniature Wargaming Convention, August 18th, 19th, and 20th at Sheraton Music City. More info at nashcon.org. Those are some announcements for you. If you have announcements you'd like me to make, a convention you're going to or convention you're going to have, or something that is pertinent to, that you think would be pertinent to our listening assemblage here, just go ahead and shoot me an email, shotandshield@gmail.com. shotandshield@gmail.com. But now, like I said, I needed reinforcements. It's time to answer some emails.
Germany calling, London calling, Moscow calling, Washington, D.C. calling, Peking calling, Sydney calling.
Message for you, son.
It's time to answer some emails from all around the world.
So if you want to send me an email, it's a shotandshield@gmail.com. shotandshield@gmail.com. Or you can hit me on the Twitter @shotandshield, or on Facebook group, which you should already be there. You should already know it. More info coming. Today, I have asked Claude Bailey, Wargaming's very own bon vivant and best dressed man in our hobby, to join me to answer some emails today because I needed help. I got so many. I got a slew of emails. Crazy. I don't know what happened, but a slew of emails, and I needed to bring in some reinforcements, and Claude Bailey is the man to help me with that. Before we get going, Claude, you sent me a message just a second ago, and it was a picture. It was like a little meme thing. Can you read this?
So it's this guy sitting, looking at his miniatures at a table, and he says, "These sunny days during spring provide us with unlimited possibilities of outside adventure. And what better way to appreciate those possibilities than by squandering it painting miniatures in a dark basement all day?"
And can I tell you, that's so true, because anytime it's really beautiful out, I like to spend time inside painting.
Oh,
that is my
man.
I swear to God, that is one of my favorite things. It's so bright, the lights coming through the window, and I love sitting there painting for that. Like I almost killed the whole podcast today, our recording. I was going to say, Claude, I gotta cough, and then just go and paint all day.
In summertime, I can see that here anyway.
Well, Claude, I appreciate you jumping on to help me with all these emails. I don't know why we got the emails. so once again, it's shotandshield@gmail.com, shotandshield@gmail.com. And so today's podcast, I'm just going to busting out just these emails because I got a slew of them. Like they didn't stop. Every time I'd look at one, another one would pop up and another one would pop up. And I thought I had like a virus, but that was not the case. So.
Well, and I think it's interesting, as we were talking about before you started recording, you saw a huge increase in the amount of emails you got all of a sudden, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm still kind of perplexed. Like maybe there's like a saturation point, just to, kind of behind the scenes, kind of inside baseball type mentality. In any of the podcasts, maybe if you have it on for such a long time, like now this is going to be year number 2.
Yep.
And then finally the saturation is like, oh, it's there. Oh, let me send an email or let me listen more or whatever else like that. So it's kind of, it's nice. It's nice to be loved. All right. So here we go. So first one, this is from Garrett in Pennsylvania. And he asks, says, how did your first game mastering event go? I heard you hadn't mastered an event for a long time. How did it feel? How did you do? Did anything surprise you? So that's the first question. So this is so Skirmish Game Con was at the beginning of March, and I hosted a game. I brought in my Russians versus Persians 1820 during the fifth.
That early.
Yeah, during the fifth Russo-Persian War, and this is where the Persians went into Azerbaijan and Armenia and southern Georgia to solidify their stuff, their area, to prevent the Russians from coming in. And the Russians said were coming in anyway, and historically wiped them out. So this time, in the game that was played on at the beginning of March, the Russians did not do very well. The Persians really kind of slaughtered them. So,
what were the just real quick, if you don't mind, what were I'm sure you based it on actual historical, like as far as the numbers on both sides?
Well, what I did was I took an actual battle.
Right.
And then, or an overall battle. And
that was the Saffron one, right?
Right. The Saffron Fields. So Battle of Saffron Fields, and I made this Battle of Saffron Fields was a skirmish based on a larger battle. And I can't pronounce the name. It's in Azerbaijani. So it's like the Battle of blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I mean, I just can't. I'm not going to try to do it justice and just abuse it. So, and so the Battle of Saffron Fields is just a fictitious battle. It's a fictitious skirmish, but based in that historical event.
But so the numbers on both sides were
even.
Roughly okay.
Yeah, they were totally even.
Interesting. Okay.
Both had cavalry, both had artillery, both had infantry. So the rule set was Blood and Steel from Firelock Games, and I did an adaptation for the troops, but not for the game. So I played the game exactly to the letter of the game, but I just adapted the troops to fit the idea and the essence of the game, as if it were the Union versus Confederates or the Seminole War or Mexican American War, the other ones that they have listed there. So I did the research to do that. Now let's see how'd the mastering go for the first. I got to tell you, the mastering, I was really nervous. I really was, because we're driving up, Mrs. Duke and I, right? So we're driving up to Jacksonville, and she's like, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm nervous, killing myself here." Because in my head, I'm like, "Okay, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens?" And just with the game, get up there, get set up, get the game going, and I'm freezing. Like mentally, I'm like, "Okay, what now? What am I doing now? What am I doing now?" And luckily, Edgar, one of the authors of A Blood and Steel, him and I kind of role played the game mastering ahead of time.
Oh, cool. That helps.
Yeah. So it gave me a chance to kind of get my footing a little bit.
Right.
And, okay, now I'm in. Now the game's on. Game's on. I felt good. And after that, we're good. And I felt good. And so that was nice. So it felt good doing it. I felt much more prepared than I did when I 30 years ago, my last time. And I will tell you, this is what surprised me. You ready for this? This is what surprised me. I was surprised at how many people will come over to the table to see what's going on, but want to comment about whatever T-shirt I was wearing. I have a.
They weren't looking at your figures and your terrain.
No, they were looking at the figures. They looked down and go, "Wow, this is different." Because it was different.
No, it was beautiful.
Thank you very much. But it was different because
yeah,
when you go into a convention and you're seeing what, and historical miniatures, you're seeing Civil War, World War II, Civil War,
American War of Independence. Yep,
American War of Independence. So you have these staples, Napoleonics. All right, maybe ancients, right?
Maybe some modern, like tank battle,
right.
Whatever. Yeah.
So you see, so there's some staples that you're going to get at a convention. Then all of a sudden, here's this one. It's like, oh yeah, it's Russians versus Persians, 1820, and they're going, what?
Did you see any? Were there any Indian Mutiny themed games at that convention?
No. It was literally. And not taken away from it, not an insult. It's just people had, Civil War, World War II, and so it was just those. There were other games going on, but historically, it was those two were predominant,
right?
But so people would say, "Wow, that's different. Wow, that's different," and and there was comments on the terrain and the figures, and which I appreciated. But I had either a Boston Red Sox shirt on or an Iowa Hawkeyes shirt on. And so it was like, so how about those Iowa Hawkeyes? Oh, those Red Sox, you think they're going to do it this year? My takeaway is never wear a sports team shirt to these conventions because you're going to invariably you're going to end up spending a lot more time talking about, in my case, Iowa Hawkeyes than I am about gaming.
Well, it's basically one game or the other. Make up your mind.
Right. So, but that's what I got. I just found it amusing driving back. And Sherry asked me the same thing. So how do you feel? I said, I feel good. And she said, and what'd you get out of it? I said, never wear a T-shirt or a logo, anything logo that has anything other than wargaming on it. So anyway, so next time I got it covered. Now, when was the last convention you were at?
I've never been to a convention.
What?
I didn't start wargaming until the beginning of the pandemic.
All right. So look, you got it. Okay. Claude, you got some great stuff. Your setup is fantastic.
And it's all in boxes right now, but thank you, Scott. I appreciate that.
You got to take the boxes, put them back in your car, and head for the nearest convention.
All right. There aren't a lot here. There's a group up in Phoenix that does one every year.
Mm-hmm.
But and there's a kind of, what is that really popular one? Not Thunderdome, but it's some Warhammer.
Warhammer.
There's a lot of that here in Tucson, but that really doesn't interest me. But other than that,
there's a lot of that here in Florida too.
Yeah, I think it's pretty big all over the world.
Absolutely. I mean, who's the one guy the guy who played Superman? Cavill?
Oh yeah, I was thinking Christopher Reeves, but that tells my generation, doesn't it?
No, I'm with you on that. But the only reason I remember this is because the guy who played Superman, I think in the last Superman movies, he's a huge Warhammer fan.
Oh, really?
So I guess I saw a news thing where he goes to all of these conventions.
Oh, cool.
And the paparazzi like TMZ has to stand outside, which I think is hysterical.
Well, let's face it, there's not usually a lot of famous people at wargaming conventions.
That's true.
Here's a random question, total tangential thought. Who were the Persians making their own artillery at that point?
No.
In 1820, I didn't think so. Who was making
it? It was the French or the British.
Okay.
Because you got to. All right. So here we go. All right. This Here we go. Now you asked the question. You open the door.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
gonna
I'm
go there.
interested.
If you open the door. So here's what I got. The Persians, they were buying not just the equipment, but also the training and the experience. You
Like the
have
Sikhs.
right after the Napoleonic Wars, you had all of these generals and colonels and majors that needed a job because they're now
And
all
corporals and sergeant majors.
There you go.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so the Persians were one of these because they wanted to be a regional power. They would bring in all of these, these trainers from Napoleonic, from Napoleon's side, from the British side, from the German side, from the Prussians.
Interesting.
And they would bring them in and they would train their troops and
So
their
I'm
generals.
wondering,
And then they would buy old muskets and everything else, that any type of artillery that they could get their hands on.
primarily from European powers, or
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
because again, as you very well know, the Sikhs were doing the same thing
Mm-hmm.
in the same time period, 1820s, right. Well, again, post Napoleonic War, post Waterloo.
Right.
So
And then-
interesting, yeah.
So
Glad I
the
asked.
Russians, when the Russians would face them, they were actually facing a European trained
So
units.
right. So was it a similar thing in terms of, I know, like for example, the Sikh armies around that period and later, they had certain units that were European trained and European armed, but not their entire army was never
Right.
completely drilled in a European style. Was it similar thing with the Persian army? Because I mean, I know when the British led the punitive expedition in the Anglo-Persian War in 1857, 1856, 1857,
Right.
they faced some drilled Persian troops, and this is later, but they also faced, the typical hordes of
Tribal.
irregular
Mhm.
cavalry and whatnot. So was that similar case with the Persian army?
With the Persian army, and this is from the research I found, and somebody can correct me if you'd like, and send me an email, or you could do it on the Facebook. The Persians, all of their military, their strict military, were all trained European style.
Okay.
All of them. There
So
wasn't
their regular army.
their regular army, to the
Got
point
it.
where they even had Cossacks.
Ah.
They had
Were
they
the
called them
Cossacks Muslims, or were they mercenaries, or
they were mercenaries. They were mercenaries, but they were also homegrown. So they're homegrown Cossacks. They're called the Qajar Cossacks.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right. So,
Interesting.
but they could also, the Shah or whoever was in charge, I'm going to say it like that because I'm not sure the actual titles of the head guys.
The King of Kings.
They could also call on various tribal leadership
Right.
to supplement their forces. Now, the Persian forces, from my study, is the Persian forces. If it were east of Tehran, then everything is going to be, the majority of it is going to be European troops. When you go east of Tehran towards, if I'm saying that, east of Tehran going towards Herat and Afghanistan, it's going to be less of your Persian European trained forces and more tribal.
I see. When you say European, you mean European trained.
Yeah, European trained.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's from what I've read, that's why. So it would make sense for the British when they did their punitive incursion. They were going from the Afghanistan side.
No, they actually was a seaborne invasion.
Really?
They landed at Bushehr. They landed at Bushehr. They didn't go overland.
They didn't.
No,
So-
the Indian Army landed at Bushehr, and then they went inland. They didn't. There was no overland. Later, and earlier, there was always, well, not always. There was a lot of British involvement in Herat
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because of obviously the East India Company and then later the British Empire's involvement in Afghanistan and safeguarding the frontier from specifically the Russians. But the fear was that the Russians, one of the routes that they thought that the Russians could take was through Herat.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a wonderful story of quite a character, Eldred Pottinger. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Yeah, I have. I recognize the name.
It was quite a family, but one of the Pottingers, and I'm not sure if it was Eldred, but it was a young Pottinger, was involved in Herat and was, again, leading the Heratis defending the Herat with the Heratis against the Persians at one point. And some really, really good, wonderful stories that come out of that whole situation. The Indian Army invaded, East India Company Army at that point invaded Persia from the sea.
See, I thought they had, and like I said, I defer to your knowledge on this, and I'm asking the question. Wasn't there? Then I thought there was like another prong coming from the west.
No,
or coming from the east. I mean, no. So it's just from the.
Not that I'm aware of, and I mean, again, my knowledge of the Anglo-Persian War, that one anyway, is pretty limited to, I would say, 3 different sources, and the main one being The War for a Persian Lady, which is a book that I would highly recommend. I think I've recommended it to you before.
Yeah, I think you have.
Called The War for a Persian Lady. I'm sorry I don't have the author's name right in front of me, but I can look it up. But anyway, sorry to go off on a tangent.
No. I'm glad you did, because the in the British incursion, though, they faced more. The idea is that they faced more of the tribal type units than they did the actual European trained.
Well, that's one of the reasons I asked where the Persians got their artillery from. I was assuming they weren't making their own, but also, again, the parallel or the similarities with the way the Sikhs were developing their army at that point. Now, the Sikh army went on to become quite something, and it looks like the Persian army didn't.
No. That's the other thing too. Is if you think about the Sikhs also had their own way of battling.
Right. Absolutely.
Right, and then they would just take and again, Gurinder, Singh Man.
Yes,
the number one guy about anything that has to do with Sikhs. We've had him on the show a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And if I remember right, is that they would take some of what they felt was the best qualities from the European powers to meld into their own form of battle, whereas the Persians would just say, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be done, so this is the way we're going to do it.
Yeah,
and there was
blindly.
Right, and so there wasn't like a homegrown, and they were doing that for years too. Matter of fact, when they were part of the, there was the gunpowder. It was the gunpowder dynasties or the gunpowder nations. It was Turkey, Persia, and there was another one in there. This is in the 1800s. The Persians, again, still, all their musketeers were all trained by the French, even then. So, anyway. So now that we've totally blown poor Garrett's question here, Garrett.
So the War for a Persian. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, Garrett says the email wanted to know about the first game mastering. So yeah, no, everything was good. The only thing that surprised me was the T-shirt thing. So there you go. Let's move on here. This next one here is from Hazelton. This is great. I love this. From Hazelton, the Master of Ballantry.
Oh,
remember a movie of Master of Ballantry from it was Errol Flynn? Love
Absolutely.
That movie. Says let's see. Hazelton writes, Duke Scott, greetings and salutations from deep in the heart of Texas. I listened to your episode with Bob Murch, and I am surprised that you have not talked more about pulp wargaming since. Just before I continue on, Bob from Pulp Figures, pulpfigures.com, great artist. He is excellent.
Great figures.
Yeah, those figures are fantastic. I had him on in November of 21. He was my first, after I did the revamp of the show, he was my first guest, and he's outstanding. So I haven't talked to him since, except through Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. And he's fantastic. Anyway, he says, did you fall out of love with wargaming, son?
What?
He's having fun with me. As master of Ballantree, I order you to cover more pulp action. There are some great pulp rules out there like Pulp Alley and Bob's Rugged Adventures, so consider this a directive and not a request. Love the show, Hazelton.
There's a lot of that's a great comment.
Yeah, it is. Because
So
even though like the podcast is a 19th century base, I try to do everything 19th century base. I don't like to leave that kind of deal, but in the pulp world, there's plenty of 19th century action to be had.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a really good Facebook page called the Society of Hysterical Wargamers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a big focus of that group. Is 19th century, a lot of pulp. It's worth checking out. I don't know if you remember, but it's worth looking at.
No, I think because most people when they think of pulp action, they're thinking of Lovecraft type stuff or 1930s.
Yeah, 1920s, 30s, absolutely.
In that area.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't necessarily mean 1930s like it's all gangland type stuff. I'm talking like, that whole idea of China Station, it's B. Gibson and, you're going to go find some idol in the middle of
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Indiana Jones type stuff. Thank you. Boom. That's it right there.
Which is cool. Who doesn't love Indiana Jones?
Right.
I personally think you're crazy if you don't. But anyway.
You know what? You and me both. If you don't like Indiana Jones, that's your problem.
That's right.
But as far as pulp goes, so pulp action, you could do pulp action for pretty much anything.
Absolutely.
If you think about it. So, I might have to consider doing. I can't. I have so much going on now. I swear. Just with what I'm working on my current project right now, I wonder if I could do some type of pulp. I could probably do some sort of pulp like spy type stuff.
Oh yeah.
A great game.
Oh, of course. Oh, big
right?
time. Yeah.
All right.
That's the curse of the war gamer and of the miniature collector, and is to have 15 different projects going on, 15 different irons in the fire. I'd love to I really want to do the Seek Wars in 54 millimeter,
right?
But it's like that's a whole different.
But could you do the Seek Wars in pulp? So you basically have like 6 or 7 guys.
Oh yeah.
Figures aside and
absolutely.
So yeah,
spies and Matahari types and yeah, absolutely.
Come on. Hazelton, Master of Ballantree in Texas.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks for adding to my list there. Oh my God. All right. So let's continue. This next one, this email is from Kit Carson in Wyoming.
Love it.
Scott, I am happy to have a show like yours that covers some really out of the way subjects in wargaming. I found your information about the Cossacks really eye-opening. I would like to take you to task in a fun way, but the Wild Wild West is also in the 19th century. I've never heard you cover Boot Hill or anything like it. As you can tell, being from Wyoming, I have a vested interest. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Kit.
Boy.
I have not done. That's one. You know what? There's some stuff, because doing the podcast once a month, and then every once in a while doing a, bonus or supplement or something like that, when I have time to get it in there. It was hard to cover everything that the 19th century has to offer.
Oh yeah, it's impossible.
And eventually I will. It'll be like in 2035.
Or you could do more podcasts, more frequently.
I love doing the podcast, but the time, it's so time consuming.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Like after
we appreciate what you do, believe
me.
And
I thank you. But after you and I are done today, right? I will be editing just for time and spaces and stuff like that. Just a little, not editing content, but just editing in general. And it would take double the time that we have to talk.
Right.
It's like, and then, with work and everything. So, but I will tell you, so let's talk Wild West for a second.
Yeah, let's, because I live in Arizona and I could tell I'm 45 minutes from Tombstone.
So
we did when was it? Was it October? In October of last year, my buddies from California who are in my long range desert group, California historical group, they joined me and we got some guys from Arizona. So about 7 of us went down to Tombstone, dressed up in our Boer War British Army kit. It was the second time we've done it. We call it the Relief of Tombstone rather than the Relief of Ladysmith or Kimberly. And what a great turnout. They have a thing in Tombstone every fall called El Dorado Days. So you've got cowboys, you've got Pancho Villa's guys down there. You've got lots of Victorian reenactors. You've got a parade. You've got it's a blast.
That sounds fun. That sounds a lot of
blast. Fun. It's total blast. So this past year was the second year in a row we've done the British Army in Tombstone, and obviously we get a lot of looks because you don't see a lot of pith helmets in Tombstone. But it's a great event, and we're going to try to do it again this year. But yeah, we had almost 10 guys this past year. So anyway,
have you ever gamed Wild West?
No. I honestly, growing up partially in Arizona and partially back in New York, for whatever reason, it's never really interested me.
Right.
There's a movie studio here that's just reopened, actually, that they were using from the late 30s up until right before the pandemic. Actually, John Wayne filmed a lot of movies here. It's called Old Tucson.
Right.
It's a perfectly beautiful village, little Old West town, about 45 minutes from here also. And so I grew up going there as a kid. My grandparents used to take me there. So I don't know. They filmed Rio Bravo there.
Oh, what a great movie,
dude. Oh my God. Hello. That alone. But anyway, talk about a tangent. But anyway, long story short, so I kind of got my fill of the Wild West thing. I don't know. It's interesting to me. I mean,
and we just talked about pulp action. I guess Wild West would fall. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the Boot Hill. I'm familiar with the title, and that it's a rule set for Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure what the extent is. But to do Wild West, I know that we have friends that do wargaming of Wild West from like a cavalry versus indigenous peoples type, wargaming.
Like Pony Wars.
Yeah, Pony Wars.
Pony Wars is huge.
Yeah, people love that.
Oh,
I love
yeah,
that.
no,
I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of fun. So, when you say Wild West, maybe that's where I'm kind of like Wild West as in, Rio Bravo. There you go. It's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Right. So,
or Sons of Katie Elder.
Right. You have all the bad guys, and the bad guys have this bad guy army. Right. And you have the good guys, and the good guys have like 4 or 5 guys.
Right.
And they got to figure out how to make it work. So maybe that's, I'll have to look more into that. So Kit, I promise I will look more into that. No promises on when you'll hear a show about that, but maybe I can find somebody that's really, really like on the deep end, like really involved and engaged in Wild West wargaming to come on the show here. Let's see what else we got.
Good question.
So we got we got Paul listening in Connecticut. Oh, this is going to be right down your alley there, buddy. I tell you right now. Claude Bailey, this is right down your alley. So Paul writes, I have heard you say many times that 15 millimeter is too small and 54 millimeter is way too big.
No.
But if you had to pick one, which would it be? Also, I was thinking about getting into 54 millimeter myself. Do you have any suggestions for companies whose figure detail is really good? Finally, bring back the watch-alongs. Those were hilarious. Thank you, Paul. Okay, so there's 3 things here.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna go to the watch-alongs first. because we get that out of the way. I love doing the watch alongs. And okay, fine, I'll bring him back. All right, not today,
Yay!
not in this episode, but I'll bring him back because there's a few of them there I'm still having fun with. Because
we all love Mystery Science Theater. Let's face
right,
it.
it's the same concept. It's just you have to like just kind of take the video and you have to take the audio from the podcast and match it up. And
it's a blast.
I kind of felt that it was maybe asking people to do too much, but Paul, I have gotten a couple other emails in the past about that too.
I agree with Paul.
All right. So the next one we'll go into is 15 millimeter versus 54 mil. If I had to pick one,
that's a huge.
But I mean, if you have, it's a huge gap there. But if I had to pick either 15 millimeter or 54 millimeter, that's the question.
Got it.
Okay, so there's nothing in between, one or the other. I probably do the 15.
And I take the exact same, the exact opposite position. I definitely take 54. Yeah.
The reason I take 15 is in space wise, but also painting wise. The 54. I don't know where I don't know where I would store it.
Well, look.
I mean, you have a compound. Like right now, we have the video going on, which you'll never see the video. But Claude is taking me on a tour of his compound. He has guards, and he has this 54 millimeter setup in his. It looks like it's like in your back porch.
Yes, it's my poor wife. It's our back patio, which is no longer usable except for wargaming.
Right, and I mean, you have is that like a 9-10 foot table?
That is, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.
12-foot table set up, and it's set up.
Which you need for 54 millimeter.
Which you
Paul,
need
by the way,
for 54 millimeter. I'm in a 10 by 10 room that I share with the cat.
Right.
And I got one corner is the podcast stuff. The other corner is the painting room, and one corner is the cat stuff, if you know what I'm talking about. And then the one corner is the door.
So I think, and that brings up a really good point, man, because it's for the guy that asked the question, for Paul. The issue is, I think basically like Scott said, painting, time, and also it really comes down to, do you have space to store it all? That's basically, and to game it, because you can't really do it. I mean, you can, but a 54 millimeter game on a 4x6 table is fairly, to be frank, unsatisfying.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
And there's other games. I'll bring around the 15 millimeter. You'd almost have to do 15 millimeter with big battles,
like Napoleonic,
right?
Or even the Sikh Wars, or the
Shiloh and Tatum.
Oh, those, yeah.
I mean, Normandy. I mean, if you want to really do them, LL Maine. If you really want to do them, you got to do them in 15 mil or under, to get the big scope of the whole deal.
Right. Absolutely.
But that's one of the reasons why I like skirmish. So
yeah,
now I don't have to think like that anymore.
That would be a good topic for a future podcast, is skirmish versus big battle.
Yeah, I have. You know what? I have a couple of things. Like I have a couple of things in mind on that. I actually have stuff half of something recorded.
Nice, cool.
For that, I want to do the battle skirmish versus big games. I already got Chris Pringle. He's already on audio. Who is the big bloody? I was going to say something bad. The big bloody battles.
Well, I like that.
Big bloody battles rule set, and he's already taped his making the case. And I have somebody else lined up to do the making the case for the skirmish, and it's going to be a battle of wits. And
I love
it. Sorry, I have half of it recorded, so it's sitting in a folder.
So his other question was about recommendations for 54 millimeter.
Right.
Figures.
So let's see it. Let's see.
And I think it depends on what historical period, really.
Right. So the question is, do you have any suggestions for companies whose figures whose figure detail is really good. So let's do this. Figure detail is really good. That's one criteria. The other criteria is going to be 19th century. So to hone it down, because he didn't, Paul, you didn't really kind of give us an era or what you were kind of looking to game. So let's break it down. So if I were going to game Anglo-Sikh War. So name me one company that I could go to
for 54.
Yeah,
none.
Well,
there's literally none. So I did the Indian Mutiny in 54 millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
The only company, there's two companies that have ever made figures for the Indian Mutiny in that scale. One of them is Trophy Miniatures, and they're metal. The other one is Britain's, also metal.
Okay.
It's a very small range. They're very expensive. They're beautiful and they're extremely well painted. But there are no 54 millimeter figures made specifically for the Sikh Wars.
Okay.
But that being said, there are a lot of Napoleonic figures, plastic, 54 millimeter, that can be adapted fairly easily for the Sikh Wars, for example, if you want to use that as an example.
Sure.
But you have to know how to, it's not hard, and I find one of my favorite things with 54 millimeter figures is the conversions.
Mm-hmm.
But you can use Napoleonic figures, armies in plastic. Some people think it has a bad rap. I love armies in plastic figures.
Right.
I think they changed the wargaming world. Because it was the first time that they were making 54 millimeter figures in plastic that were decent, in all different periods. But the Napoleonic figures and armies in plastic can be modified you could do the Sikh Wars.
Now, what about, correct me if I'm wrong, but what about hat? The 1/72nd scale.
Napoleon. Yes, there are some, and that as far as detail goes, the detail on the hat figures is much better. Armies in plastic isn't bad as far as detail goes, but hat is better.
But they don't have the range. They don't have a lot.
No, they have lots of Napoleonics.
They have a lot of Napoleonics in 54.
Yes,
they do. Okay.
Yes.
So,
they used to. I mean, I've got a bunch. I don't know if they're still making them. I know I've got Austrians. I've got French. I've got.
Are they hard? Are they hard plastic or soft plastic?
They're hard.
They're hard. They're hard plastic.
They're soft. They're harder than armies in plastic.
Okay. No, the reason I ask is because
they're not brittle.
What the one thing I loved about hat when I was doing 1/72nd is if I needed to make a type of conversion, it was me and a knife.
Right.
That was it, because it was such a soft plastic. I could go ahead. When I was doing a Crimean War, I got the World War I 1/72nd scale French, early war French.
Perfect. Yeah.
And with a little carving, just a little, all of a sudden, boom, I had figures that were passable for Crimean War.
Well, and also, so I did Franco-Prussian War on a very small scale in 54 millimeter, and I used hat, and I used actually Airfix and BMC, and also armies in plastic, of course. But that was easy. I mean, I could take World War I French and Germans armies in plastic and make them very suitable for the Franco-Prussian War.
Because in that case, it's just you're doing a different paint job, really.
Well, there's a few.
There's few details,
too,
but
yeah.
So now let's say, let me turn around. Let's say it's going to be later part of the 19th century. Let's say the Spanish-American War.
Again, armies in plastic. Armies in plastic makes a really nice Spanish-American War range.
Yeah.
For both sides. Yeah. They also make a great, I have one actually. It's like a blockhouse kind of thing.
Okay.
For specifically, I use it for India, but for Spanish-American War. It's a big, huge thing where the top comes off. It's got a veranda all around it. It's really cool. And that comes in a set with all the figure for both sides. I think it's I want to say 100 figures. It's like they call it San Juan Hill or something like that. But it's great figures on both sides.
Have you seen the mini series about Teddy Roosevelt? in the Spanish American War, where
I don't
Teddy
know that I have.
Roosevelt is played by like Tom Berenger or something like that, and
Oh yeah, I have. Kind of goofy.
the cheese factors.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah.
I was reminded because I was before when I woke up today, and I turned on YouTube and they have you get clips of stuff like that. There was Jeff Bridges. He was playing Winfield Scott.
Oh,
and
right.
He was just. I was like, I haven't seen that before. Jeff Bridges, he's all right, and and it was some speech about Caesar, and I'm like, I can't do this. Okay, it's too cheesy, So, anyway, I should have saved it and done the watch along with that. That way we can all have some fun.
Oh yeah. Well, you can find it again, I'm sure.
I'll find it again. Anyway, Paul, listening in Connecticut, thank you very much for your question.
Yeah, good question.
That was a good question right there. Okay,
Go
so here
54 millimeter, buddy. All the way.
all the way. That's your next.
We call it God's own scale.
Is that what is it really?
Yep.
You're lucky I love you. All right. So this email comes from Seth in Arlington, Virginia. Scott, a quick question for you, and only because I find it interesting. Where do most of your listeners live? Is there a way to tell? Keep up the good work, Seth. So let me pull up I'm the host of the podcast is a company called Captivate. And basically I load everything up on the Captivate site, and it has a lot of tools. This isn't an ad. I'm just saying this is what I use. Mm-hmm. I pay for it, so it's not like, they're doing me any favors because they're taking my money. And they have a analysis or an analytics section. So let me pull it up here.
Did you say you got that daily, Scott?
Well, we were talking about that before we started recording. The daily is I get this thing called chartables, and it just tells you where you end up in the chart and it's only for Apple Podcasts. So okay. Yeah. So if you folks listen more in England, I'm going to see it in the chartables up and down. So I'm pulling up the analytics here to answer the question. And here it is. Let's see. United States is number one with 53% of all listeners. Wow. United Kingdom is number two with 20%. Mm-hmm. Australian is 10%. New Zealand is a couple percent, and then it goes down from there. So,
what's your listenership like in South Africa?
Let's see here. South Africa, it's low actually. Huh. It's very low. I do have listeners in South Africa. Love you. Yeah. But it's funny because they give me this chart. It's a chart of the world, and every country is highlighted that's listened. Mm-hmm. And so all I need in Europe is I need someone to listen to the show in Switzerland and in Belarus, and I got everybody's listened at least one time in all of Europe. So that's kind of cool.
I thought you were going to say the whole world.
Oh no! There's some blocked. Like literally, there are some countries that are blocked. I can find out that people listen in Russia, but I can't find out where they listen in Russia. I can't find out if anybody listens in China. There's no way to tell. It's blocked.
Big surprise.
Mongolia is blocked.
How about Pakistan?
Pakistan. I can find out who's listening in Pakistan. I cannot find anybody in Iran, in Afghanistan.
Huh. Not a lot of listeners there, probably.
Libya or Algeria. But you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised because I can tell Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan.
Well, those have functioning governments.
Yeah, Azerbaijan, Turkey.
Libya does not.
Syria, I can tell who's listening in Syria.
Oh, that's sad.
Huh?
Oh, it makes me sad that what's going on there. I just feel sorry for anybody.
Oh, I was going to say, it's just like No, I want them to listen everywhere,
Oh,
not
for
just in
sure,
Syria.
yeah.
I mean, I don't want you to be sad about people listening to me in Syria. I mean,
Oh,
what are you
I
talking
just mean I feel sorry, but it's
no, you're right. You know what? There's such a, it's so weird to see this and then see like in Ukraine, there's a bunch of listeners in Ukraine. And with
Wow.
everything going on in Ukraine and you're listening to this podcast, I thank you. And I
That's
hope this brings
amazing.
you solace. I hope it brings you some normality or something like that. But man, you got some stuff going on, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Egypt, Turkey, Syria, it's just interesting to see where people listen. I think it's more interesting than it is, it's not like I'm doing this for financial gain here, but I'm not. But United States, England, Australia, New Zealand, and India, those are top 5.
All English, primarily English speaking.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And I think some of the other countries that listen might be something that all of a sudden if I have something in the description of the show, like, today we're going to be talking about the Kazakhstan, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of Kazakhstan
That makes sense.
listeners where they're like, oh, what's he saying about Kazakhstan, or Egypt or whatever,
Right.
after the podcast with Alan Curtis talking about the battle of the war in the Pacific in the 1800s with Chile, Peru, and Uruguay, all of a sudden, bam, all up in those those searches. So it's like, okay,
You have a big jump in listener in India and Pakistan after the interviews with Gurinder Singh.
In Pakistan, yes. In India, no. And the reason India is because India, the listeners in India have been steady all the way through.
Yeah.
So anyway, so here we go. So Seth, I hope that answers your question. That's a good inside baseball question. Yeah, it's kind of like it's not really war gaming, but it's interesting. Yeah. This next question email comes from Zachary in Fresno.
Good old Fresno.
Scott, I'm working through your backlog of episodes, but really enjoying the podcast so far, which I appreciate. Thank you very much. I have shared it with my local club, the Little Generals, Fresno, CA. Excellent. We have a teenage club member who has expressed interest in the Boxer Rebellion.
Cool.
Particularly as it relates to involvement of the U.S. Marines of that period. I only have the most limited familiarity with the conflict that comes from the feast day of the Holy Martyrs of China celebrated in the Russian Orthodox Church.
What?
Yeah. I haven't heard that before. Yeah. That's interesting, though. That's interesting to have that put in there. Mm-hmm. Have you ever covered the Boxer Rebellion? If so, what episode? What miniatures and resources would you recommend for someone interested in that conflict? What rules would you recommend for to wargame the Boxer Rebellion? Given that the club member in question is just starting his wargaming hobby, I think an easy skirmish rule set that doesn't require a high model count would be best. Cheers, Zachary.
I have a great
email.
Can I interrupt?
Yes, please.
I would highly recommend A Gentleman's War by Howard Whitehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially for a beginner. The skirmish level is perfect. And as far as scale, I'm guessing they're probably using 28 millimeter, but I would very much recommend A Gentleman's War. It's very accessible. It's fun. It's you don't need 1,000 figures.
No,
it's very colorful and entertaining, and it's highly adaptable to. It would work great for the Boxer Rebellion.
Yeah. It's funny is I've always wanted to game the Boxer Rebellion. I haven't yet. I'm going to say yet because, and literally, and I say this, one of my top 5 movies of all time is 55 Days in Peking with Charlton Heston and David Niven.
Pretty great.
Love that movie. It's like, it really is. Lawrence of Arabia, 55 Days at Peking, Citizen Kane, Maltese Falcon.
Cartoon.
Cartoon would be number 6. And Reds is my number 4.
Really?
I love Reds.
Oh God, I hate that movie.
Oh, I love it.
With Warren Beatty?
Yes.
Oh, it's awful.
I know. I know. It's just like, what? But I just real quick, I'll get to your question and we'll address your thing just like Zachary. Let me tell you about Reds. All right.
God, all right.
Let me tell you about Reds. What I love about Reds is I ignore all the love story.
Well, that's the whole movie.
Yeah, but there's so much historical undertone.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
That I'm just in.
Good point.
I'm just in. You know, and how people were feeling and thinking at the time, and the writers and going back and forth, and then the revolution, the Russian Revolution, and everything. It's just that landscape to me is excellent.
Yeah,
the love story, I don't really care. I never pay attention to the love
very
story.
rich too.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, you're absolutely right.
I'll give you.
I'll have to watch it again. I changed my mind. You're right.
Well, I mean, I appreciate when people say what. Another one. I'm going to go off on a tangent. Razor's Edge. With Bill Murray, not the original, with Bill Murray.
Totally agree with you.
You think Bill Murray? What?
No, I completely agree with you.
He did a fantastic job. It's one of my favorite books.
Me too. Oh my God, Scott, me too. It's like one of my top 3 favorite books.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my top 3.
And I love Bill Murray.
Yeah, he nailed this. He nailed it. And you know what? That was from what I heard. That was, we're so off a tangent on poor Zach's.
Oh, I love it.
Question.
It's a great conversation.
The movie Razor's Edge that's how he got to do Ghostbusters 2. They were they asked him to do Ghostbusters 2, and he says, I don't want to do Ghostbusters 2. I want to do Razor's Edge. And they said, well, we'll let you do Razor's Edge if you do Ghostbusters 2 or something like that.
That's really, because I can see, obviously Ghostbusters 2 was a big moneymaker and Razor's Edge was not.
No, it was not.
Well, what a cool story, man.
So he's so good in that.
No, he's fab. It's a fabulous story. And rarely, if ever, does a movie do justice to a book.
Right.
But in that case, it got close. You know, another one, not to go off even more of a tangent, The English Patient.
Really?
Oh, I love that movie. It's for the same reasons.
I'm going to have to, I saw it in the theater.
Oh, cool.
And I walked away like this. What the hell?
It's now, you might,
but now I'm older, and
it's the book was brilliant, and it takes place in North Africa and Italy in the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is, again, I can't recommend the book highly enough, but it's like Reds. This is what made me start thinking of it. There's a love story sort of behind it, but it's got Willem Dafoe, Ray Fiennes. Mm-hmm. It's visually just absolutely gorgeous, and I'm obviously very interested in North Africa and the Second World War. And,
right.
There's also the second half of the film revolves around an Indian officer in the British Army in Italy, and it's a brilliant movie, I think. Anyway,
okay.
Sorry,
I think we have totally blown. Now Zach's
butchered that.
Zachary's looking at his phone or wherever he's listening to his podcast. He's going, "What the hell are you guys talking about?" So okay, so let's get to the point. Okay, so Zachary, let's talk about the Boxer Rebellion. I will tell you, the best resource. It's going to sound so stupid, but is that movie?
Yeah, I agree.
55 Days at Peking, Charlton Heston, Ava Gardner, David Niven. The uniforms are spot on.
Yeah.
The outfits that the Chinese boxers are wearing are spot on. The idea is spot on. It's a dramatization, absolutely, but they captured the flavor of the whole deal.
My only complaint with that film is that there's no representative of the Indian Army in that, and the Indian Army that was a big engagement for the Indian Army.
Right. But again, to that point, but we're talking about the legation. Now, the Indian Army was in the relief forces.
Correct. But they relieved the legations. Well, anyway, but I complain about that with everything. So anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, whiner.
I know.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, so that's a good resource. There's a ton of books out there. That's a great resource. Mr. Whitehouse, the gentleman you met, he had a great.
Yes.
That is really good. I would almost suggest going with the Men Who Would Be Kings if you're going to do 28 mil in that.
Agreed.
Because I think that it covers the idea of the Boxer Rebellion just as well as any other rule set.
A shout out to the Facebook page Colonial War Games.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of guys on there that I met a few years ago when I started wargaming who have done Boxer Rebellion in epic 54 millimeter scale, first of all.
Really?
Like spectacular. Wow. But I've also seen it done in 28 millimeter. And I think mostly from my memory, if my memory serves me correct, they either use Sword and Flame or the Men Who Would Be Kings.
Sword and Flame. I have such a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, I love it. It was my first rule set I used when I played Colonials. I just felt that I needed so many figures to be able to do something justice. So it was almost it took 1-to-1 to like this umpteenth scale.
Yeah, which is not helpful for somebody who's just starting out.
No. So
good point.
Even the Men Who Would Be Kings kind of requires a larger amount of
than a gentleman's war. Then you don't need you could probably do Boxer Rebellion using a gentleman's war rules with, gosh, I don't know, because you can get Gatling guns in there and even like steamships if you really wanted to get crazy. But with maybe 100 figures, total.
And this is where I would like to recommend Blood and Steel, because the skirmish you only need few, but they don't have
like how many? When you say few, how do you?
Well, they do in the Blood and Steel rule set. They give you a force list for the Spanish-American War, and you're looking at, if you wanted to play the Spanish-American War. Now it came about the same time. That's why I bring this up.
Oh, it's exactly spot on. Yeah.
To field a force of Marines, of U.S. Marines, you're looking at, you would need 21 infantry figures, 6 cavalry figures, and 1 gun. And
I think a gentleman's war is about the same ratio, I would say.
Okay. So I mean, if you think about it, if you're going to paint, and let's say you're just starting out in that field, the Marines are probably pretty good to start out with, because it's tan and blue,
right?
And so you can get through it pretty easy and still have some fun with detail if you want. When it comes to the Boxers, white with the red circle, or all red, or if you wanted to get froggy and jump in and do the Tiger group, the Tiger Company, with where everybody's wearing the tiger striped outfits, the tiger striped pajamas.
You're talking about, okay, yeah.
The Boxers, yeah. So I'm not, I have the working knowledge of the movie and what I've read and what I've looked at in my wish list of figures to get. But you know what? I'm gonna have to. I got to try to. I have to do a show on the Boxer Rebellion. That's the one thing I haven't done. I did a watch along. I think it's still up because of my old pre Shot and Shield Supercast shows. I did a watch along of 55 Days of Peking.
Oh, cool.
Just the episode, the part of the episode where all of the Chinese are coming running down off the top of the wall,
trying
to get into the legation, and everybody the Allied forces have put together these like carts with like pianos on them and stuff, and they're rolling them up to
make barricades.
To make barricades, the rolling barricades to get them off the top. And I did a thing because I thought it was hysterical that Charlton Heston and a bunch of his buddies they take this cart, this wooden cart, and it has a piano front and is just driving these poor guys off, and then the jingle guns being used, and then the international gun explodes, and they're doing and again this is my biggest problem with movies in general. Nobody knows how to use a machine gun. I mean, it's a machine gun. You should be wiping people out, but no, you get the machine goes rat-a-tat-tat, 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 and one guy goes, oh, and he falls. It's like, no, it should be like 100 guys going and falling. Nobody can aim this thing. Why? Claude, tell me, why can nobody aim a Vickers machine gun?
Because in 1900, it was, newer technology. So,
but aiming's the same. It's been the same since biblical times when somebody picked up a spear and said, I'm throwing it at you. I got to aim it.
Can I recommend a book?
Yes.
Peking 1900, The Boxer Rebellion. It's an Osprey campaign series book by Peter Harrington. That's where I would start if you want to know more about. I think it's available. You have to buy it, but it's a beautiful book, super well illustrated. The Osprey campaign series books are great, obviously for wargamers. They're really like perfect.
Yeah,
they have maps, they have uniforms, they have beautiful color plates, they have really good background and to the conflict. I would recommend those across the board for any wargaming at all. Period.
And if you want to do it on the cheap, you just type in Google, what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And you go to images and Pinterest, and all of a sudden there's all these pictures are all photoed. I mean, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying you're not going to get the full flavor of the book, which you should have the book in your library if you're going to do any of these areas. But I gotta get an expert on to do this. I do. I gotta get
the Boxer Rebellion.
Yeah, an author or somebody who games
contact Helion. I'm sure I think Helion has a book about. Yeah,
I'll have to find. I'll call. I have to. I know a guy over there. I know a few guys. I sound like a mobster. Yeah, I know a guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I know a guy. We'll talk about the Boxer Rebellion.
That's the way.
But also, who is somebody in my area here? His name's Mark Coolidge. He is down in Fort Lauderdale. He's the Duke of Fort Lauderdale. That's his.
Oh, nice.
And he does Boxer Rebellion. He has a Facebook group also about the Boxer Rebellion. And that's a good one to become a part of there, Zach. If you tell your teenage club member that. So I don't think we've answered a lot of his question, but it does. I promise that I will do a supplement or a show on Boxer Rebellion. So I think I could find an old time radio show on that too. I think I have.
Oh,
one.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I think I have one in my back pocket. So
one more book recommendation from Helion. It's a Helion book. It's called China's Wars, published in 2013 by Philip Jowett.
Okay, so Zach, I hope that helps you out a little bit. But as I say, I'll promise I'll do a full show, just nothing but Boxer Rebellion. I've been wanting to do that. I just haven't had I've been trying to mix it up, trying to mix up that way. It's just not one thing, but I will tell you that there's a couple of shows I've done one thing on and people are in. So you know what, Box Rebellion, I'll do that. So Zach, thank you very much for your question. Our last one. Last email is from Wally in Ohio. Scott, I love the show very much, and I am an avid listener, but can you ever see yourself ditching this podcast and doing one just like it for World War II? I think it would be so much better than hearing other people drone on and on and on about the Eastern Front and Normandy. It's like there weren't any other battles.
Oh, I totally agree.
Scott, my captain, my Duke, will you ever do this? If not, I will still listen. LOL, Wally in Ohio.
What do you think about this, big guy? I completely agree with him, but
I you know what, that would it would scare me a little, frankly, do a podcast on that, because I am, again, the one thing I love about the 19th century is because it is this tapestry of all these different eras, landscape, just a total blitz of so much little things going on that it makes it really interesting. When you start doing World War II, you inevitably have to hit the big stuff. But I don't think there is as much little stuff as we think.
I disagree with you.
Okay. Because I could tell you my first show would be on Palestine, French
Syria.
versus British. That'd be my first one.
And Indian.
And Indian. Yeah, absolutely. I should say French versus Commonwealth. How's that?
There you go.
Okay. I would do Persians, Russians.
Yeah. And Indians.
What? I would do Kenya.
What about
Ethiopia?
Ethiopia, Eritrea.
Ethiopia, that area. Everything before the Germans got involved in Africa, I'm in. Once the Germans got involved in Africa, I'm out.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just, you got Italians and British Commonwealth. All right. I'm involved. It's like, not only that, but I mean, you have the South Africans with their pith helmets. You have the New Zealanders. You have the Australians. You have
got Rhodesians,
Indians, Rhodesians, Greeks, Polish. It is an amazing setup to play against Italians that are also using their Ascari type troops as well. And there's natives. What's it? Lion of the Desert type stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you have Libya, the Libyan locals against the Italians and leading up. So there's a lot there. After that, then, Burma, which
definitely,
you got to be involved in. Singapore, Malaya, China versus Japan, getting in there. Manchuria, I'd be involved. So there's some stuff going on. You keep it if you want to continue doing British German, then I would do Crete, Greece,
Albania.
There's some
Balkans,
great stuff there. I would have to, even though it's not part of World War II, but I'd have to include the Spanish Civil War, just because it's in the same era, same kind of mentality.
Well, then what about, then you have to do the, for me anyway, the Waziristan campaign in 1936.
Right. Absolutely.
1939.
You got to put that all in there.
Yeah.
So there's, I would do Poland. I would do Poland because
cavalry.
Yeah. You have cavalry versus tanks. I mean, there's a lot, and the Polish, they weren't slugs in this.
No,
No, them, and they fought hard.
very.
They fought hard. They were smart. They
Yep.
gave him a run. I mean, they just if I'm remembering my history right, there were a reason Poland, they just were overwhelmed because of the geopolitical that they got.
Well,
So
what about
there's
the Russo-Finnish War?
yeah, there you go,
Again,
Russo-Finnish.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Obscure,
I mean,
but
there's a lot to do in that case, but that once you get through that, and for balance, you just can't.
right,
I don't think you could do. Libya, or I'm sorry, Ethiopia and Italian, and then the next show not do the Battle of the Bulge or the Battle for Berlin for the balance of the program.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it's like, man, does this guy know anything other than everything not World War II? Because that's the thinking starts, because it's like Normandy, the breakout, Arnhem,
Right. Saving Private Ryan.
right, Saving Private Ryan. I mean, I will tell you that there's be a ton of watch-alongs because there's so many movies, and then I will tell you the radio shows that I could find. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never be scrounging.
Right.
But
what about gaming the Japanese takeover of Singapore?
right. Yeah.
I'd fight that one again.
Well, that's sad. Isn't it sad?
Mm-hmm.
Sad.
Super
Because
sad. I get to a point in almost all of my reading about the Indian Army where that happens, and then I have to put the book down and go back to reading about something else because it's so incredibly depressing to me. But
who
anyway,
was
talk about a tangent.
Ooh, who was the commander? Wavell?
No,
Not Wavell.
I want to say Anderson, but I don't know.
It was somebody that was in. It was somebody that was in the Middle East, and they moved him.
Yep, you're right.
And it just
His name was.
he had the position, he had the artillery, he had everything going for him.
Yeah,
and he didn't think he did.
It was General Percival.
Percival, that was it. Because Percival, he was in Egypt at one time.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. Actually, I think he was. No, he wasn't. I was going to say he was primarily Indian Army, but I don't think that's right. Anyway.
So that's good. Yeah,
Awesome,
that would be a great game to do over again, just because and give it the old college try. At least
it was really interesting. You had land forces, you had amphibious invasions, you had a lot of interesting air actions.
Bicycle troops. Bicycle troops.
Yeah, for sure.
The bicycle. They would run off a tangent again.
Oh, big time.
So for you 19th century fans, 19th century wargaming fans, I apologize. We just went right off a tangent. Thanks, Wally.
Thanks, buddy. Good question,
Wally. But no, you know what? I can't say that I'd ever do that. I really can't. This podcast right here takes a lot of time. I have one other that I do that I haven't done in a long time.
I was going to ask you if you were still doing that.
Yeah, no, I own the podcast network that the show's on.
Mm-hmm.
The show is on. It's called Experience 15. That's the podcast network.
That's not where you started on either, is it?
No. That's I just changed the name of it.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a comedy one that I have. And then that I haven't done. I have a buddy who is going to be doing a true crime one.
Oh, fun.
He's all in.
That's a
And
big genre right now.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of sitting back and kind of editing and helping him out with it. He just wants to roll with it. And then I have the Vintage Adventures, which I have not updated in a while. I did, and then I stopped. So it's just like, and then I have a leadership podcast. I have 52 episodes of that I'm marketing.
Wow.
That because I don't want it on this, I want to sell it, and it just takes a lot of time. Plus your day job, so I'm I'm wrecked, and I'm trying to war game too. So I've kind of put a lot of things to the side to war game, frankly,
as it should be.
As I was, I think we talked about this earlier. I'm not sure if we talked about it before we started recording or as we were recording, but I literally, it's a beautiful day. I almost said, you know what, we're not going to do this. I'm going to start, painting or something, because it's where we escape, right?
We that was before we started recording, but yeah, that I don't know why I sent you that cartoon this morning, but somebody sent it to me, my buddy Neil Rainwald, who does fabulous 28 millimeter stuff. Are you friends with Neil?
I am, and Neil is absolutely awesome.
He's a gentleman and a scholar and a former high-ranking United States Army officer, and he's a brilliant guy. I'm so glad to have met him through Facebook. He's a brilliant painter. He does a lot of pulp, actually.
He does do a lot of pulp, and he actually has a great blog too.
Oh, yes.
His blog is fantastic because he shows you all the painting he's doing, the games he's playing. He does a lot of stuff, not just 19th century, which is the only fault he has, is that he doesn't do everything 19th century like a good person should. But he does other stuff too. But the other stuff just as good. It's just that it's not 19th century, and I don't really care about that. But apart from that, he's a fantastic
he's got a great
bloke.
sense of humor. He does really good movie reviews.
And he just as a note, I don't know why I even mentioned this, but the Blood and Steel rules, a lot of his figures are in that book.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that. Neat.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, so he's really good. And I got to think he has some Boxer Rebellion in there.
I know. I think, who has Boxer Rebellion? A lot of it is my buddy Nick. He used to work for Pixar and Disney. He was a graphic designer all his life. Brilliant guy. Very, very, very dedicated, very serious, old school wargamer. Nick Stern. And I've gamed with him. We gamed during the pandemic virtually numerous times, and primarily using The Men Who Would Be Kings and The Sword and the Flame. But I know he did Boxer Rebellion in 54 millimeter. But he also does 28.
All right. So all of a sudden I'm on a Boxer Rebellion kick. Thanks, Zach.
Pretty cool.
Thanks.
Think about it. You got British, you got Americans, you got French, like you said. You've got Germans,
Russian, Austro-Hungarian,
Indians.
You could actually add Dutch to it if you wanted to. Even though the Dutch were non-aligned, they did go in and help.
Right.
They just weren't in the legation. Oh my God.
Can I give a plug to finish up?
Yes. To
the Soldiers of the Queen magazine. Comes out quarterly. It's the Journal of the Victorian Military Society.
Okay.
I look forward to it every month. It's absolutely fantastic. All the articles in it are written by historians, scholars, serious Victorian military people. It's like, I think it's 25 pounds a year.
That's not the weight. That's how much it costs.
Right. Sorry. Yes. 25 pounds sterling, but it's highly worth it. I love it. It's great. And I get a lot of questions about it from people on Facebook and whatnot, asking where they can get it. And I highly recommend it.
Tell people about your Facebook groups.
Oh,
if you have a few of them, because I think people would be interested in them.
Okay. I've got I only have one big main one that I created anyway. And that's the Sword of the Raj, which is dedicated to the Indian Army from 18, pretty much the mutiny up till independence in 1947, partition. We've got I don't know, maybe almost 2,000 members.
You have some great info on there, and there's always great pictures.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't I try not to be super serious about it in terms of I don't want it to turn into one of those Facebook groups that everyone gets criticized every time they post something.
Yeah.
It's I hate that. I shut that
Yeah.
down immediately.
Mm.
It's just for people who are interested. And I mean, I got interested in the Indian Army initially just because of the color. It's so colorful and interesting to me. I mean, it was the largest mercenary army in history, and it was hundreds of races, religions, languages, all volunteer, always no, never conscription. I don't know. It fascinates me. So that's why I got into it. And yeah, it's not about culture or religion. It's just specifically about the Indian Army, and
Right.
Which remained like super professional and did amazing things at the end during partition when unfortunately Muslims and Hindus and Sikhs were killing each other. The army, which was composed of all of those ethnic groups and religions, remained aloof. Basically,
Right.
they saved tens of thousands of lives, and they kept professional till the very end. And I don't know. Anyway, but so yeah, there's that group, and then, oops, where'd you go, Scott?
I'm right here.
Yeah, I lost you. Sorry.
No, I can still hear you.
I forgot that my laptop is touchscreen. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm the admin in a bunch of groups, but
Do you have
yeah.
you have a YouTube channel too, don't you?
Yeah, and you know what? I just
What?
talk about not having enough time. I think I probably do have plenty of time. I'm just really super lazy. I want to do like not a podcast, but I want to interview people and have people
Yeah.
on there, and like I would love to do that, but I don't know. I guess I don't have I haven't sat down and done it yet. Let's just put it that way. But that's my dream, is to do that, is to make it like my own little TV show on YouTube about 19th century military history, basically,
Right.
and 20th century for me, but primarily 19th century. And any ideas or thoughts or assistance with that would be much appreciated for anybody who's listening to this. I would really I'd love to do it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I have a lot of uniforms and that I like to wear all
That's
the
what makes
time,
you the
so.
best dressed man in this hobby.
But I think that would be fun too, to talk about gear and uniforms and kit. And I mean, I just bought 6 fake World War I, World War II British hand grenades. So I've been painting those the last week or so and getting them ready for the desert event coming up. I'm very excited. In 2 weeks, I will be in the California desert in Tunisia for the annual California Historical Group desert event. I'm going to be out there for 5 days. We're going to have jeeps and bell tents and lots of Germans, lots of Italians, I'm in the British group. I'm going to be an officer this year. Very excited.
Oh, you made it up to officer?
Yeah, in 1 year.
Probably because you had the suits.
That
you had
helps.
the outfits. Yeah.
And the mustache.
And the mustache. You got that perfect wispy mustache.
Hardly. It's really bristly. I don't know. Anyway, but so yeah, that's all I got, man.
So I would like to end this. We're ending the podcast now. This is going to be the end of the podcast, this particular podcast, with a shout out to, and I forget the gentleman who wrote the email to me, but it was like, do we hate Claude Bailey? Where, because Claude Bailey hadn't been on. And did you fall out of love with Claude Bailey? Where's Claude Bailey?
Oh.
And I remember saying, no, we don't hate Claude Bailey. Where'd that come from? Because you hadn't been on in a while. And I was like, that's why I reached out to you, Claude. I was like, hey, you can help me answer some emails here, because now everybody knows I don't hate Claude Bailey. He is Wargaming's bon vivant. How can you not love this guy?
I think I remember who wrote that email.
Your mom? Mom?
Ouch. No, it was another guy named Claude.
Yeah, probably.
I think it was Claude Everhart.
Probably, but now I was like,
funny.
I got the email and I'm looking at it. I'm like, are you kidding me? No, we don't. It's like I do this thing once a month. There's plenty of guys I haven't talked to in a long time. I mean, it's not like we don't share, through the internet and stuff like that,
Exactly.
emails and
Well, I missed you, Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. It's a lot of fun. I really was looking forward to it all week, and let's do it again, man.
Absolutely. No, we will do this again. Claude Bailey, the really Wargaming's own bon vivant. I love saying that just because it's so true. And really the best dressed man in our hobby.
Bon vivant.
Bon vivant. Anyway, Claude, I appreciate you coming on.
Avec mon grand plaisir, mon ami.
Oui.
This is Shot and Shield.
I hear that conditions in your army are appalling.
Well, I'm sorry, but those are my conditions, and you'll just have to accept them.
Shot and Shield is on social media. There's the Twitter page at Shot and Shield. Please follow. There's a Facebook group, the Shot and Shield Podcast Wargaming Group. It's open to all. Please join and post some of your amazing games, paint jobs, and creations. Finally, the email, shotandshield@gmail.com. Email me if you have a question or a thought or even a complaint that you'd like read and answered on the podcast. Shot and Shield is on social media.
This is Shot and Shield.
Good luck against those elephants.
Thank you for continuing to listen to the Shot and Shield Supercast on your favorite podcast apps. You got the Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. You remember, you just type it in the Goog and Google will show up, etc. Any of your favorite podcast apps. I do ask you to subscribe, share, and hopefully, if you like the show, please give it 5 stars in the review section. And you can throw a review down there saying something like Scott is just an awesome Duke. Something like that, maybe? No? Okay. Anyway. Now it's time for me to dig into the archive and present our audio discovery for this episode. I look for these old-time radio shows, and the reason I do this is to help set the flavor for our gaming, especially considering the 19th century or pulp war gaming or anything like that, anything to really set the flavor to help us, really capture the essence of what we're doing. Today, by request, I got a ton of requests for this, and this is going to be a redo, because I think I presented this Foreign Legion classic, I think maybe February 2 years ago. I want to say that. It's in my mind. But it's the French Foreign Legion epic called Under Two Flags from 1937's Lux Radio Theater, starring Herbert Marshall, Lionel Atwell, and Olivia de Havilland. Also, if you want, you can go to the Shot and Shield YouTube channel and see the movie version under the Shot and Shield Presents playlist. Oh, how about that? So that's pretty cool. So I got the audio version here, and also you can see the video version, the movie version, on the Shot and Shield YouTube channel. Now, let's do it. Under Two Flags.
Hollywood, California, Monday, May 24th. The Lux Radio Theater presents Under Two Flags with Herbert Marshall, Olivia de Havilland, Lucy Velez, and Lionel Atwell. Lux presents Hollywood. Under Two Flags comes to you through the courtesy of the makers of Lux Flakes. May we thank you for supporting the Lux Radio Theater through your regular use of Lux. Tonight, our stars are Herbert Marshall, Olivia de Havilland, Lucy Velez, and Lionel Atwell. Our guest, Miss Fanchon, of the famous team of Fanchon and Marco, now Hollywood's first major studio woman producer, and Louis Van den Ecker, former sergeant in the French Foreign Legion. Our producer, Cecil B. DeMille. Our conductor, Louis Silvers. So do we welcome you to another hour in Hollywood. Before starting our play, let me say that from all I hear, Lux Flakes seem to be mighty popular with modern brides. They're not going to risk dishpan hands if they can help it. They know that we men don't like red, rough hands. Such a hand feels coarse and unpleasant, makes a man wince inside, though naturally he tries not to show it. Mrs. John McGuire, who was married this year, puts it very well when she says,
Maybe men respect them, but believe me, they don't admire dishpan hands. I'm not going to have them, thanks to Lux.
As Mrs. McGuire knows, Lux guards against dishpan hands. It has no harmful alkali to dry and roughen the skin. You'll find it speeds up dishwashing, too. I turn the microphone over now to Hollywood's celebrated producer and starfinder. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cecil B. DeMille.
Greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's production of Under Two Flags recalls memories of the golden age on Broadway. David Belasco was starring Blanche Bates in this great play. I was acting in another production nearby, and frequently members of our company would slip into Belasco's theater to watch Miss Bates rehearse as Cigarette. Among us was a very young girl, also destined to leave the stage and try her luck in a fad that was soon to sweep the country, moving pictures. She did rather well. Her name was Mary Pickford. Our story is from the celebrated novel of Louise de la Ramée. And tonight, thanks to Paramount and RKO Studios, we star a gentleman of long acquaintance with our microphone, Herbert Marshall. Bart leaves the set of Angel, his new picture with Marlene Dietrich, to portray the role of Corporal Victor. As Cigarette, there's Guadalupe Villalobos, the hard way of saying Lupe Velez. Born in San Luis Potosi, daughter of a colonel and an opera singer, Lupe flared to fame on the Mexican musical comedy stage, and her firecracker personality prompted me to cast her in the third version of The Squaw Man. Olivia de Havilland's third appearance in the Lux Radio Theater finds her in the part of Lady Venetia. Lovely, talented, and youthful, Olivia can look forward to a most brilliant Hollywood future. She's just completed Call It a Day and has begun work on It's Love I'm After for Warner Brothers. Just as busy as Lionel Atwell, who, like Lupe, is home from picture making in England. He's just finished The Road Back for Universal and Last Train from Madrid for Paramount. We meet him tonight in the role of Major Doyle. From this point on, let our stars account for themselves. Up with the curtain, then, as once again we bring you the magic of the Lux Radio Theater, presenting Under Two Flags, starring Herbert Marshall, Olivia de Havilland, Lupe Velez, and Lionel Atwell. Algiers. Land of shimmering sands and blazing sun, of trackless desert wastes, of scorching days and magic star-swept nights. Land of the Foreign Legion. On the edge of the Great Sahara, the little Arab town of Saida lies drowsing in the midday heat. Only in the Café Cigarette is there any sign of activity. Cigarette, herself, a vivacious young French girl, moves from table to table, chatting with the patrons. Suddenly the door's flung open as her father waddles excitedly into the room.
Cigarette, where are you?
Papa, what is wrong?
Cigarette, the 14th Company of Legionnaires. They have marched away.
What? That is impossible.
No, they are gone. With my own eyes, I see them go.
They cannot do this to me. They owe me for wine, for beer, for food.
Oh, they will never pay now. We are ruined.
Oh, Papa, you donkey. Why did you let them go?
Why? I am one man. Can I stop a whole regiment?
And I am one girl. But I will stop it. I will see the commandant.
Oh, no, it is too late. Already they have marched across the desert.
The commandant will make the march back. Wait here. I tell you, I will see the commandant. I will.
I'm sorry, little one, but Major Doyle is busy.
Get out of my way.
Here, what's this? Oh, hello, Cigarette.
Hello. These fools here would not let me speak with you.
It's all right, orderly. Well, it's nice to see you.
Thank you, Monsieur le Commandant. So you robbed me, eh? You ruined my father, my cafe. Oh, you pig!
Easy there, easy. What's all this about?
Look at this bill. What you fine legionnaires saw me. And what do, huh? You march him away. Now I never get my money. Oh, never.
There, now, Cigarette, I wouldn't do anything to hurt you. I never gave you a thought.
No, you never do.
Well, what can I do about it now? The company's gone.
You can order them back.
Call them back?
Mm-hmm.
But I can't countermount an order.
But, Commandant, To me? A cigarette?
No.
No?
No.
Ooh, what a great big no. And yet you say you love me. And when I ask you such a little thing like this, you say no.
Now, look here. Have I ever refused you anything in reason?
You always been very, very kind.
Yes, and too blasted patient. Now, I've waited a long time for you, Cigarette.
Ah, but you will soon be a colonel.
Yes, you said major when I was a captain.
Did I?
I never know how to take you. Now, do you love me or don't you?
So very, very much. And when you're a colonel, I shall love you so much more and...
what?
Now you will bring the men back for me, yes? And when they come back, I will kill them, Like that.
Oh, Cigarette.
Goodbye,
no, come back here, come. Little devil. Orderly.
Commandant?
Orderly. Tell the adjutant to send a messenger out to the 14th Company and order them back to barracks.
Order them.
Didn't you hear? Jump. Come in.
Commandant?
Well?
Corporal Victor is here, sir.
Victor? Who's he?
One of the survivors of the 17th Company. Sir.
Oh, yes. I want to see him.
Commandant?
Come over here. Your name, Victor?
Yes, sir. 17th Company.
How many have you left?
8, sir. It was a surprise attack by C.D. Ben Yusuf.
Yes, I know that. You're lucky any of you came out alive.
Yes, sir.
Corporal Victor, your company was on its way here to Saida. You were carrying food to Colonel Farrell's mess.
Yes, sir.
Well, where is it?
We haven't got it, sir.
Arabs take it?
No, sir. I gave it to the men.
What?
Emergency rations, sir, just after the attack.
Emergency rations? How long has caviar been emergency rations?
There were no complaints, sir.
You know those stores were for Colonel Farrell's private use?
The Colonel has excellent taste, sir. I might add that his wine is also up to the mark.
I see. Made up your mind to have one good meal before they finish you off, eh? Well, I think I'd have done the same thing myself.
Thank you, sir.
Corporal Victor, huh? Any military service before you joined the Legion?
Yes, sir.
British Army, of course. Yes. How long in the Legion?
First year of my second enlistment, sir.
Good. I'll get you transferred to my battalion. It's the best battalion. I like to have the best men.
I like to be under the best commander.
That'll do, Corporal. That'll do.
Yes, sir. Oh, if I might make a request, sir.
Well?
There's another survivor, Legionnaire Rake. I'd like to have him transferred with me, sir.
Rake, eh? Friend of yours?
A very old friend, sir. He's been with me. We've been friends for years.
I'll arrange it.
Thank you, sir. Rick, I think I'm going to like the 14th. They're a jolly bunch.
Yes, sir. A bit noisy, sir.
Don't call me sir. You really must get out of that habit, Rick.
Tried it, sir, but it will slip out like...
Hello, my friend.
How are you, Ivan? Sit down. Rick and I were just about to open a bottle.
A bottle? Of course, I'll sit down. Glasses, cigarettes, glasses. Here, for
Cassidy.
Yes?
Who's that man over there? He's one at the table with Ivan.
You like his looks, eh? That is Corporal Victor.
Oh, Corporal Victor. I think I must welcome you.
You will like it here, Corporal Victor.
I'm sure I will.
Corporal Victor, I welcome you to my cafe. I am Cigarette.
How do you do, mademoiselle? May we have 3 glasses, please?
What? But I am Cigarette, the master of the company.
Again, how do you do? Now, very first, if you don't mind.
But always, the first time you come, Cigarette gives you a bottle of wine.
Thank you, mademoiselle, but we have cognac, as you see. Now, may we have our glasses?
So, you refuse my wine. You insult me, my cafe.
Perhaps I should be glad of your wine later.
We have no glasses for you, now or later. You are too good for us here, Corporal Cablaw.
No. If you're not going to serve us, mademoiselle, we shall have to go to another cafe.
Don't let him get away, Cigarette.
You lose a customer. On his left, Cigarette.
Oh, no. The corporal would not like for someone to sit on his lap. Like this.
That's quite all right, mademoiselle. But I hope you don't mind if I stand up. Like this.
Oh, You pig! You dog! You sit me on the floor, yes?
Yes. Good night, mademoiselle.
One hour a day for rest and recreation, and we've got to spend it here in the bar.
Well, get off my bunkie, then.
Don't.
Now, come on, get off.
Don't you think you'd better have a nap, sir? I mean, Corporal.
Thanks, Rick. I'd rather finish carving this model.
The horse, sir?
It's a model of Forest King. Like it?
Carved him a bit delicate like, haven't you, sir? His legs, I mean.
Well, perhaps I have.
Yes, you'd have a broken foreleg with a bone like that. You know, sir, the time you always hit the rail at Aintree.
He had a great heart, that fellow.
The biggest in England. Oh, sir, it would be nice to see him again, wouldn't it?
He's about the only thing I'd care to see again.
Attention! Commandant going around. All ready, Commandant.
Listen, men. We're having a visitor. An English lady from the hotel. Now, act your best. At ease, men.
Is this the place, Commandant?
This is it. Come in, Lady Venetia.
I do hope the men don't mind.
Mind? Why, they're honored. Well?
Oh, the men must be tortured with the flies. Shouldn't they have screens in their quarters?
Screens? It's said in the Legion that when a fly bites a legionnaire, the fly dies. Is that right, Corporal?
Quite right, sir.
Oh. How do you do?
How do you do?
Corporal Victor, one of my best led men, Lady Venetia. English, of course. Got a fine record in the Legion, I mean. Nothing to be ashamed of there, at any rate.
Thank you, sir.
This carving, is it your work, Corporal?
My recreation.
It's beautiful. A perfect model of an English thoroughbred hunter.
A hunter, is it? A lot he knows about those. He sees nothing but Arab ponies in these parts.
Might have been carved from memory.
Not likely, I should think. But that's dangerous ground, my lady. Better not look into their pasts.
I'm sorry, Corporal.
I'm glad you like the model, my lady.
Well, shall we get along, Lady Venetia?
Thank you, Commandant.
The other barracks, my lady, are...
It gave me the creeps when I saw the way you looked at her. For a moment I thought she knew you.
No. I've never met her before. She's beautiful, isn't she?
So it isn't Corporal anymore. It's Sergeant from now on. Sergeant Victor.
Thank you, sir.
Now, you know Arabic, Sergeant?
Yes, sir, some.
Good. I have an assignment for you. Important. Go down to the Arab horse market. Some new traders have just come in from the desert. And keep your eyes open.
For what, sir?
For any talk of Sidi Ben Yusuf. Any hint that he's collecting his tribes.
Very good, sir.
Oh, and, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
You may see an English captain down there. One of the party of visitors. He'll be buying horses. See that he isn't cheated. Huh?
I'll do my best.
Go along now.
I know, I'll take that horse here. And show us all like it.
Did you see that, sir?
Yes, our English friend has bought the same horse 4 times. Those Arabs are shrewd traders, Rick.
True, sir. They're downright thieves. That girl over there, you know, Cigarette. She seems to be helping him to buy.
Not helping him, Rick. I should say she's helping the Arabs to sell. Come on.
The Englishman will buy this tree and this black one here. No?
Oh, but that grey one, I think I like him better.
Good afternoon, sir.
Eh? Oh, good afternoon.
Buying horses, sir?
Yes.
What do you want here, Sergeant Caviar?
Oh, just looking on.
Look here, Cigarette says the black's a finer horse than the grey. You agree, Sergeant?
Since you asked my opinion, sir, I would take the grey. The black is a bit weak in the forelegs.
And what would a legionnaire know about horses? You take my word, mon captain. I know. There's one way to prove the black is best. I will ride him, and the other boy shall ride the grey. We will race.
Good idea. Excellent. That'll show.
It is a good idea, sir. But with your permission, I'll ride the grey. You see, the Arab boy might be inclined to think that someone wants you to buy the black.
Oh, I see. Yes, splendid, Sergeant, splendid. Look here, my dear, you don't mind if the Sergeant rides against you, do you?
No. It will be a pleasure to beat him.
Well, forget that. Look here, I see you too. You know, you ought to have a bet on this. Let's say a bottle of wine to a kiss, what?
As the lady likes, sir.
Oui, I bet. Even though it would kill me to pay.
It's all right, mademoiselle. If you don't care to pay, it will be the horse who will win. We could compromise and allow you to kiss him.
Oh, you. I pay no one.
Hey, look out, she's riding off. You've made her jolly angry, Sergeant.
Cigarette! I didn't mean to. Come back.
After her, Sergeant.
Cigarette, wait.
Yes. it goes, and I'll bet he catch up.
He will that, sir?
Look at him, going right out into that desk.
Cigarette! Stop! Pull up!
No!
You've got to let me explain.
No!
If you don't stop, I'll have to lift you off your horse.
Let me alone! Put me down!
I will when I've spoken my piece.
Look out! I'm falling!
Cigarette, are you all right? Can you sit up? Cigarette, look at me.
You fool! Why don't you leave horses alone if you can ride? Do you want to kill me? Do you want to break my neck?
No, I couldn't break that lovely little neck.
Oh, I hate you.
I'm terribly sorry if I was rude.
Sorry?
Yes, really. I didn't mean to offend you.
No? The first time you come to my cafe, you insult me. And the next time you see me, you tell me to kiss a horse.
You know, after all, you did say it would kill you to pay the bet.
Are you really sorry?
I am indeed. And you have forgiven me?
Would it have killed you if I had paid my bet?
I should say not.
Then, here. You like that?
Like it? Who wouldn't? I'm sorry we didn't bet some more.
Oh, but we did. 5, 6, 10 bets. And every time you won.
Huh?
What are you thinking about?
What? Oh, nothing much. Just watching the sunset.
I have been watching it too. But I have been thinking.
What about?
Oh, about you. I did not know I could hate a man so much. And fall in love with him so quick.
Oh, what a strange little creature you are, Cigarette. Now we've got to go. Come on.
It will be a long walk without the horses.
Shall I carry you?
Oh, no. This isn't the first time I walk in the desert. Many times I've marched with the Legion.
Yes. You told me you were the master.
That night at the cafe? Even though you did not look at me then, I knew that you liked me. And I like you too. And tonight you will come again. And I will fix a little table so nice for you in the alcove. Then I think we will bet some more. You will come, yes?
My dear Cigarette, that's an invitation no soldier could refuse.
Before going on with our play, let us imagine for a moment that we're in a typical American home in which we meet 3 members of our unseen radio audience. First, you hear Joe's sister, Dorothy, who has come over tonight especially to listen to Under Two Flags with Nan and Joe.
It's a swell show, isn't it? I wouldn't think of missing the Lux program, and I couldn't live without my Lux.
Oh, seems to me there's always something or other you can't live without.
Now, there's a brother for you. I'm really very economical, Joe, darling.
Yeah.
But listen, Nan, I got 4 of the grandest dresses today. I'm going to be the best dressed girl in town. 4? Oh, Dot, you are getting extravagant. I'm not, thanks to Lux Flakes. You see, dear, I can put more money into new clothes this year because Lux has been saving me so much money on cleaning bills, and my things last so much longer now. They really new looking. Besides, it leaves dresses so clean and sweet. Are you going to Lux everything? Yes, ma'am. I'm not buying a thing that isn't Luxable. Then nothing but Lux Flakes will ever touch them. I'm too thrifty to risk ordinary soaps or rubbing with cake soap.
Dorothy has found the way to dress well at very little cost. Nowadays, every store is full of Luxables that are knockouts for smartness. And they'll look as smart at the end of the season as they do right now if you stick to Lux. These gentle flakes are made to protect colors and fabrics. Remember, anything safe in water alone is safe in Lux. Back now to Mr. DeMille.
Under Two Flags, starring Herbert Marshall, Olivia de Havilland, Lupe Valez, and Lionel Atwill. It's later the same evening. Convinced that Sergeant Victor is in love with her, Cigarette sings happily as she prepares the private table in the cafe. But the sergeant has forgotten his promise. He's late even now, and Ivan, the Legionnaire, amuses himself by poking fun at Cigarette.
So it is the sergeant now, eh? You're in love with him.
In love? Oh, I hate him.
Of course. Maybe that's why you make up a nice table here, because you hate him.
He is not coming here.
You can be sure of that.
What do you mean?
I know he's not coming. And you know why?
What?
Because there is a ball up in the English hotel. He's gone up there.
Oh, you're a fool, bad. Legionnaires are not permitted at the hotels. No.
But he has gone there. I saw him. And I bet you he does not come here.
All right, I bet you.
So you were expecting him.
Lady Venetia, down there with the old Arabs buying horses.
I've heard they're rather shrewd, Captain.
Well, of course, I had to watch my step, I did.
Excuse me, sir.
What is it, Sergeant?
Important dispatches just arrived, sir.
From Egypt?
Quite possibly, sir.
Sure, but I must go. You coming, Lady Venetia?
No, I'll wait. Don't be long, Captain.
No, I won't. And thanks, Sergeant.
So, a sergeant now.
Yes, my lady.
Tell me, was there any such important message?
There might have been, but I didn't bring it.
It's very dangerous for you to be here under false pretenses.
It is indeed. Twice dangerous.
Twice?
A firing squad on one side. Your eyes on the other.
You're a daring man, Sergeant.
I had to come to bring you this.
Oh, the Medal of the Horse.
You were kind enough to admire it. Will you accept it from me? As a gift?
Thank you. I shall love it. Not only for itself, but because you risked so much to bring it. Do you know, this is the first exciting thing that's happened to me in all this monotonous country.
Africa, monotonous?
Well, look about you. Isn't it monotonous?
But this isn't Africa. It's just a ball in a hotel in any part of the world. Africa's out there. In the Arab quarters, the Jewish bazaars, the cafes, the Kabyle dancers.
Things I'm afraid I shall never see.
Things you ought to see if you want to know Africa. I could take you, you know. Or perhaps adventure doesn't appeal to you.
You're daring me, aren't you?
Yes.
You realize it's absurd, impossible.
Quite.
And that's why I might do it?
Of course.
Oh, you oughtn't to tempt me. When can we go?
Now?
Now. How can we get out?
Can you climb?
I used to climb apple trees.
Then come on. The balcony shouldn't present any difficulties.
You've probably been missed.
Oh, what a pity Cinderella has to go home. We'd better say goodnight out here. Thank you for showing me Africa. It's been thrilling.
You didn't think that was Africa, did you?
But you said it was.
Did I? No. The real Africa's out there, in the desert. The Maibu Oasis at full moon.
Maibu. It sounds enchanting.
And only 3 miles out.
Are you tempting me again?
Yes. Are you tempted?
Dreadfully. But of course it's impossible.
Oh, quite impossible.
I'm afraid so. Unless...
Unless?
Will there be a full moon tomorrow night?
I shall see to it personally.
Good night, Sergeant Victor.
Good night, my lady. Oh, you came out here after all.
Didn't you know I would? And after you ordered the moon especially for me?
There it is. Shall we sit down?
You were going to show me the rest of Africa.
It's all around you, my lady. The desert, the oasis, these ruins here.
How silent, how grave, and how incredibly old it all is.
Yes. That's Africa.
This place must have a story.
1,000 stories. Shall I tell you one of them?
I'd much rather hear another. Your own.
My story's much too long, much too dull to tell you.
Not dull, I'm sure.
No, perhaps not dull. And it hasn't seemed long. Till now. After this, it'll be endless.
After this?
Being with you. Feeling the nearness of you. You'll never know what it's meant to me.
Oh, please, you mustn't talk this way.
Do I frighten you?
No, but...
You see, it's the old trick. I'm just playing on your sympathy.
Oh, you had that from the first moment I saw you. You don't belong here. You're miserable here, aren't you?
I was. I'm not anymore.
You mean that I...
Yes. You've changed everything for me. Venetia.
Oh, don't say any more. I must go back now.
Do you want to go back?
No. That's why I must.
What's the matter?
How do I know? Am I the commandant?
Fall in, you men! Fall in! It's an attack. I heard the commandant say so.
Sidi Ben Yusuf's tribes, they have attacked Ain Sufra.
Commandant?
Men, we just received marching orders. Ain Sufra's been attacked. Be ready to move in an hour. Full packs. That's all.
Company dismissed!
Sergeant Victor! Sergeant Victor!
What is it, Rick?
Sir, I've been looking for you. I've just seen Lord Seraph.
Lord Seraph?
Yes, sir. He's just arrived, sir. Gone up to the hotel he has.
He mustn't see me.
Oh, he'd know you, sir. He'd recognize you, sure. And, sir, remember that lady who came to the barracks that day?
Lady Venetia?
Yes. She's his niece, sir.
His niece? Rake, you've got to pack for me.
But we're marching an hour, sir.
I can't help that. I gave the carving of Forest King to Lady Venetia. It has the name carved on it. I've got to get it back.
Oh, he'd know Forest King, sir.
Bring my kit. I'll meet you at the parade ground.
Yeah, meet you now. Okay.
Victor! Wait!
Oh, hello, cigarette.
Oh, Victor. Where have you been? 2 nights I waited for you, and you did not come. Why?
I'm sorry, cigarette, but I couldn't.
Was it the commandant's orders? He gave you some special duty?
No, I was detained.
Oh.
Forgive me, cigarette, but I must go now.
You would leave me and not even say goodbye?
No, I was coming to say goodbye before I left. Believe me.
Goodbye? Is that all you were going to say to me?
Please, you must forgive me. I've got to go. I climbed the balcony. I hope no one saw me.
Oh, thank heaven you've come. If you hadn't, I should have gone to you. I couldn't let you go without seeing you.
Venetia, there's something I'm going to ask you. You're going to think it very odd of me, but really it's important. It's the model of the horse. I've come to ask you to give it back to me.
But why? It's mine. I love it.
I can't explain, but I must have it. Will you give it to me, please?
Well, of course I will. It's in the other room. But you must let me have it again when you come back.
But you won't be here when I return. You'll be in England.
No. I shall be here, Victor. I can't leave you, ever.
But, Venetia...
Oh, no, don't speak. I've thought it all out. I know nothing of you except yourself, but that's all I need to know.
Venetia, dear, do you realize what you're saying? It's madness.
Oh, no. When 2 people love each other like this in part, that's madness. And you won't always be a legionnaire. Someday your service will end.
It will never end. I can never go back to England. I'll only be exchanging my service here for a prison cell.
I don't believe it. You're trying to frighten me because you think it's hopeless. But it isn't hopeless. I won't let it be. You can't forget me, Victor. Can you?
No.
You want me to wait?
Want you?
Then I will.
May I come in?
Who's that?
Don't go. It's only my uncle.
No, I can't see him.
I shall be here when you come back. I love you, Victor. Goodbye, darling.
Goodbye, Venetia.
Cigarette, where are you?
Yes, Commandant.
Look, my darling. You see this? It's my new commission. I've got it, Cigarette. I'm a colonel.
The colonel?
Don't you see? This is the thing we waited for, planned for. Cigarette. Cigarette. Oh, you're crying. What is it? Darling, tell me, what is it?
I cried because you go away. Maybe you never come back.
You lie. It's that sergeant. You've been different to me since the first time you laid eyes on him. Not a decent kiss have I had since that day.
It is not true. I hate him.
You're lying to me. You're lying to me. Aren't you? Aren't you?
Yes, I am lying. It is the sergeant.
You're crying for him. I warned you once, Cigarette, that I'd never let another man take my place. No man ever shall.
What do you mean?
I warned you, Cigarette.
Commandant, you want to see me, sir?
Yes. Yes, Sergeant Victor. I've got a little special detail work for you.
Very good, sir.
You'll pick up 20 men. Cut across the desert, due north towards Iron Sifra. Hold a position 15 kilometers this side of the fort.
Excuse me, sir, I don't quite understand. You said 20 men, due north across the desert?
Well?
That's right through the heart of the Arab forces, sir.
I know that.
We'll never make it, sir.
You have your orders.
But with only 20 men.
You have your orders.
It's certain death for all of us. I suppose you know that.
Death is part of every soldier's equipment, Sergeant Victor. Pick your men and leave at once.
If you don't mind, sir, I'd like to ask for volunteers.
Do what you want.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
We pause for station identification. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
KMX Los Angeles, the voice of Hollywood.
Before we resume Under Two Flags, I am privileged to introduce a soldier who served under three national banners, the Belgian, French, and Polish. He spent 7 years in the French Foreign Legion, campaigning in Algeria, Morocco, Indochina, and the Sahara, rising to the rank of sergeant. In the World War, he became a lieutenant, was severely wounded, underwent 23 operations, and received several decorations, including knighthood in the French Legion of Honor. In recent years, he's been a military technical advisor in Hollywood. He worked for me on The Crusades, and most recently on Paul Muni's picture, The Life of Emile Zola. Ladies and gentlemen, a true soldier of fortune, Lieutenant Louis Van den Ecker.
My thanks, Mr. DeMille. I suppose a lot of people are wondering what crime I committed to have joined the Legion. If I disappoint you, I'm sorry. But the law and I have never had any arguments. Men join the Legion for one reason: adventure. Criminals are not found in the ranks, and if one of them manages to join, he is soon arrested by civil authorities.
It was my impression that they ask no questions when you join the Legion.
That's true, but that does not keep criminals that does not keep police from chasing criminals.
What are the qualifications then for enlistment?
Only two. You have to be of age and in excellent health.
In our play, Van, we mention Ain Sufra and Saida. Do those towns mean anything to you?
A great deal. I served many months at both places. In fact, at Ain Sufra, there is a bottle embedded in the wall of one of the buildings. In it is a slip of paper with my name and the date. Just a souvenir I left behind.
As one who encountered the Arabs many times, what's your opinion of them as fighters?
Very high. Arabs have no fear. They believe that if they die fighting, they will go to paradise with many pretty girls. We had our hands full many times, and I've been just as scared as anyone could be. When marching, the legionnaires are always in square formations, ready for instant trouble. And at night, they pitch their camps in square formations too. They are never without their rifles or their picks and shovels.
No, they're overcoats, judging from what I've seen. Why overcoats in the desert?
Because the coat acts on the same order as a thermos bottle. It keeps the heat out.
Well, after 7 years in their ranks, then, what's your most vivid memory of the Legion?
Their wonderful spirit of comradeship. They will not only risk their lives to save a wounded comrade, but there is case after case of as many as 6 men going to their death trying to recover the body of a dead comrade, rather than let it fall in the enemy's hands. In the Legion are men of every race, color, and religion under the sun. Men of every profession, living together, fighting together as brothers. If the world wants an example of brotherhood to follow, let the world look to the French Foreign Legion.
Thank you, soldier. Herbert Marshall, Olivia de Havilland, Lupe Velez, and Lionel Atwill take up our story, Under Two Flags. 1 week has passed. The fighting has broken out at Ain Sufra, but no word has come from Sergeant Victor and his 20 men, doomed to perish trying to hold a hopeless position. In her room at the hotel in Saida, Lady Venetia turns toward the door as her uncle, Lord Seraph, enters.
Venetia?
Yes, Uncle Harry?
I say, Venetia, where in heaven's name did you get this? This model of the horse here.
Oh, it was given to me, Uncle Harry.
But when?
A little over a week ago.
Curious. Very curious indeed. It must be an old carving.
Well, I'm sure it isn't old. As a matter of fact, I know it's new.
But that's impossible. Don't you see? It's Forest King, Tony Brett's old horse. It has the name carved on the back.
Tony Brett? Who's Tony Brett?
Don't you remember the scandal? Tony Brett's younger brother committed a crime, and Tony shouldered the blame himself. Last summer, Tony's brother was injured, and just before he died, he made a full confession absolving Tony.
And where is Tony Brett now?
Why, he's dead, I believe.
The man that carved that horse and gave it to me is a legionnaire, an Englishman and a gentleman. He must be Tony Brett.
Impossible. But wait a minute. As a matter of fact, none of us ever saw Tony's remains.
I can't tell you how I know, but I have a feeling, I'm sure, that Sergeant Victor is Tony Brett. Isn't it said that the Legion is full of dead men?
Where is this man? I've no Tony anywhere.
He's gone, marched away with Colonel Doyle's battalion. Can't we get him back?
I'll do what I can. You want him to come back very much, don't you, my dear?
I do. So much.
I beg your pardon, Lady Venetia.
Yes, Paul?
You asked to be informed of any wounded return.
Yes.
There's a train of ambulances just arrived, my lady.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Easy there. Handle him easy.
Oh, Phil, you're hurt bad, huh?
Chief-Harry, it's good to see you.
Oh, here, what, my Ferrell? Excuse me. Is there anything I can do? Oh, you. I'd like to help if I could. You're here to look for Sergeant Victor. You need not look any longer. He's not coming back. What do you mean? You know something, mademoiselle? Yes, I do know. The commandant has sent him to a post of death. Sergeant Victor will stay there until he dies. Is this true? Yes, it is true. I know from the wounded. Now you can go back to your own country. You will never see him again. Why do you tell me this? Because I love him as you could never love him. He does not belong with your kind. He's of the Legion, and they are my kind. Would you follow them into the desert, as I have done? Would you march with them and nurse them and close their eyes when they are dead? I have shot them. Do you hear? So that the Arabs could not take him alive. Could you do that? No. Oh, you poor child, you do love him. Yes, I love him. And I could save him, too. You could save him. How? In a way you could not understand. But why should I save him? Huh? For you? But you said that you love him. If you really love him, can you let him die? Can you? Go back to your hotel. Go back to your soft life. Easy ways. What are you going to do, mademoiselle? I'm going to the commandant at Ain Sudra. I'm going to save Sergeant Victor. For you.
Here, man. There's not much water. Go easy on it.
Sergeant, how long are we going to be here? How long do we have to wait for help in this filthy hole?
Easy, Baron.
I can't stand it much longer, I tell you. I can't stand it.
Quiet.
They're out there, waiting for us. Waiting for us to show ourselves. Waiting for us to go mad.
Shut up. Sorry I had to do that, Baron. There were only 8 men here, 8 out of 20. We'll need our wits to get out of this.
It's this blasted silence that's got me. The Arabs are out there all right. Why don't they attack?
A wall 10 feet high between us and 1,000 Arabs. They could kill us both like that.
Let them wait. The longer they wait, the more chance for the relief to come.
Sure, if it ever does.
We were put out here to hold this position. We're going to do it.
We can't if they attack us. They'll swarm over us like flies.
Quiet, I tell you.
He's right, sir. We'd never hold out against another attack. We're too few. It's time we're working against now. Anything might happen if we had time.
Time. I might be able to get some. Until dawn, anyway.
How, sir?
If I could borrow the robes from one of those dead Arabs outside, I might be able to sneak into Sidi Ben Yusuf's camp.
What?
Pay the sheikh a little visit.
You're mad, sir. Why, they'd call me to ribbon.
We'll do that anyway, Rake. I'm not too particular about where I die, and it's worth a chance.
Qaid Ben Yusuf.
What is it?
One of our horsemen, Qaid. He would talk with you.
Send him to me. Well?
Good evening, Sidi Ben Yusuf.
An Englishman. How did you get here?
It's a pleasure to renew an old acquaintance.
Old acquaintance? I don't seem to recall your face.
Oxford. You were at Balliol. I was at Trinity. You haven't forgotten those afternoons at Professor York's?
Oh. Dear old Professor York. Oh, how well I remember. This is amazing. Old classmates meeting here in the heart of the desert as enemies. Why have you paid me this most unusual visit?
To save my life. And possibly save yours.
Really?
A wise man is he who makes peace in time.
Peace?
Recently, a British commissioner arrived in Cider, as your spies no doubt have already advised you.
Does that affect me, my friend? I make war on the French.
You know best, of course. But if you are caught here, with the British troops behind you, it'll be a little awkward, won't it?
British troops in French territory? That is utterly impossible.
The secret was well kept.
Are you naive enough to think that I believe you?
You have scouts, I suppose? Send them out. Learn for yourself.
Well, I shall send them. If what you have told me is true, I shall be indebted to you for the rest of my life. If not, you will die, my friend. In a few hours, we shall know.
A few hours?
By dawn.
Dawn. Thank you.
Good morning, my friend. I trust you slept well.
Excellently, thank you.
And that you enjoyed your morning meal?
I found it a delightful relief from hardtack.
I am very glad, since it will be your last.
Really?
You lied to me. I've had scouts out all night. There are no British within 500 miles, and you knew it.
Quite. And I was quite surprised that you believed me at all.
And now it's my turn to amuse myself with you.
I'm curious. What do you intend to do with me?
Remember the old soccer games? We are going to play it now. With horses. You will be the ball.
It should be very amusing, Sheikh.
For me, yes. But for you, I doubt that you will care for it. What's that?
Qaid, the Legion, 4th Squadron. They ride from the north.
So, this is what you waited for, my friend.
The relief, Sidi Ben Yusuf. We hope they might be here at dawn.
And so they are. It's a pity you won't be there to greet them.
I shall try my best.
Stop him! Stop that man!
Charge from the rear.
Extend your right wing.
Close formation on the left. Never mind the fort.
Commandant!
Cigarette! I told you to stay behind.
I'm riding with you.
I've a battle on my hand here. Get to the rear.
You promised to save him. Send your men to the fort.
Get back, I tell you. You want to be hit? Turn your horse to your back.
I'm riding with you. You said to save him. Get at the first. Turn your men. Turn them all.
Cigarette! Are you hit? Cigarette! Cigarette!
It was about here that she went down, Sergeant Victor.
Why did she do it?
The commandant tried to make her stay behind, but she wouldn't. We saw her fall and we... Look, sir, there she is. She's lying over there.
Call some men from the fort, quick.
Yes.
Cigarette.
Oh, Victor. You are safe.
Let me lift you up.
Oh. No higher. I have seen so many men die. I know what this is. You can't do anything. There is something I must say.
Yes, cigarette.
She said, an English lady, if I love you, I would save you. Tell her I'll try.
I will tell her. Is the pain very bad?
It's nothing. But you laughed about me. It's so funny. When I waited for you, you did not come. Now you have come. And I must go away. You will remember that day in the desert?
I will always remember.
Victor, shall we bet just once more?
Cigarette. And that was the way she died. Out there in the desert. In my arms.
Poor Cigarette. She loved you too, darling. And she wanted to save you. For me. I shall always be grateful to her for that.
Venetia, that day you spoke to her. Did you tell her who I am?
No, darling. I'm glad now. She said that you were her kind. And wherever she is now, she'll be happier believing that.
With the falling of the curtain on Under Two Flags comes a promise from our stars to return to us before this hour is over. Standing beside me now is a woman known to theatergoers for many years. First as a dancer, then as producer of the famous Fanchon and Marco stage shows. From among her performers have risen such stars as Myrna Loy, Janet Gaynor, Lida Roberti, Martha Ray, and Mary Lewis. Her career reached a new high a few days ago when Paramount released Turn Off the Moon with Eleanor Whitney, Johnny Downs, and Charles Ruggles. It was produced by our guest and goes down in picture history as the first film ever produced by a woman at a major studio. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Fanchon.
For many years, ladies and gentlemen, the two names, Cecil B. DeMille and Lux, have meant a great deal to me. In fact, Mr. DeMille gave me my first chance to direct dances in pictures.
Miss Fanchon staged The Candy Ball for me in a film called The Golden Bed back in 1925. But she didn't continue in pictures very long. Didn't you like them, or didn't you like DeMille?
I assure you that it was only the pictures. Today, however, with the best in stories, actors, and photography, and with men like you still at the helm, I'm sure there's no medium of entertainment like the screen.
And you also mentioned Lux a moment ago.
I can't say too many nice things about Lux Flakes.
Did you mean you can think of something that your former orchestra leader, Melville Ruick, hasn't already said?
Well, I can say that at one time, Marco and I had as many as 1,000 girls performing throughout the country in our stage shows. And do you know, Mr. DeMille, that a part of the equipment of each of those girls was a box of Lux Flakes? It's by far the best way of keeping costumes beautifully fresh, and it's especially good for silk stockings. I've used Lux countless times myself when Marco and I were starting out. It was more important to me to keep my costumes looking right than it was to eat. When it came to deciding between a hamburger and a box of Lux, my stomach was usually the loser. That's what I think about Lux.
Well, as the first woman to produce a major studio picture, what do you think makes a good film?
Well, I hope to show that in my next two pictures, Summer Romance and Argentine Love. I believe in youthful romance, and comedy, music, and dancing. In other words, an entertaining, light, happy production. I found out that about 99% out of 100 people that step up to that box office to buy a ticket do so because they want to be amused. I'm going to try to satisfy them.
Education has some place on the screen, too.
Yes, but a cheerful story can educate just as much as preaching. Such a story teaches everyday practical things like what's new in clothes, in dances, and an appreciation of good music. It teaches good manners, how to talk honestly, and how to live honestly. Lots of people turn to pictures as an escape from ordinary and very often sordid circumstances. They need hope and a little cheering up, a little laugh. And that's what I'm going to remember as long as I'm producing pictures. And now, Mr. DeMille, and all of you, my thanks.
With philosopher, Madam Producer. A moment now with the evening stars. Herbert Marshall, Olivia de Havilland, Rupi Velez, and Lionel Atwill.
Again, my gratitude, C.B., for inviting me back to the Lux Radio Theater.
And mine, too. While I have an opportunity, a word of appreciation to Louis Van den Ecker for his splendid account of the French Legion.
It interests me particularly, Lionel, because in our research for my next picture, The Buccaneer, I discovered that one of the Legion's greatest battles was fought in Mexico.
I can tell you about that. Oh, please do tell us, Lucy. Well, Olivia, it took place in 1863 near Veracruz, at the time when Napoleon had made Maximilian Emperor of Mexico. Only 7 French soldiers survived, but the Mexicans admired the courage of the legionnaires so much that they allowed the 7 men to leave the battlefield with their rifles.
Well, perhaps it inspired Louise de la Ramée, as she wrote the book Under Two Flags not long afterwards.
Yes, and it may surprise you to know that she wasn't French but English.
But why did she use the pen name of Ouida?
Because as a child, that was the way she pronounced Louise.
Oh.
She was a strange personality. Took particular delight in insulting everyone. Lived on a lavish scale for years and died almost penniless in Italy.
That should teach us all to save our money, like I do.
I wish you'd tell us how you do it, Lucy.
Oh, it's easy and lots of fun, too. I cook all the meals. I paint the garden furniture and the swimming pool for Johnny. You know, it's my husband, Johnny Weissmiller. And I don't let anybody put anything over me. I'm Mexican, all right, but somewhere I think maybe there was a Scotchman.
Excelente.
I'm pretty good now, Mr. DeMille.
Excelente.
Well, C.B., the clock moves around. And I know you have an important announcement to make a little later.
So we'll join the audience and say our adieu in a little verse from Trilby. You may remember it. It starts, a little work, a little play.
To keep us going, and so good day. A little warmth, a little light.
Of love's bestowing, and so good night.
A little trust that when we die, we reap our sowing, and so goodbye.
Mr. Marshall, Mr. Haviland, Miss Velez, Miss Rattle, our thanks. The dramatic treat in store for us next Monday night will be revealed in just a moment by Mr. DeMille. This is your announcer, ladies and gentlemen, Melville Ruick. Assisting our stars tonight were Lionel Pape as Captain Mingus, Kenneth Hunter as Lord Seraph, Leonard Moody as Rake, Michael Visseroff as Ivan, Lal Shan Mehra as Sidi Ben Yusuf, James Eagles as Keskadi, Lou Merrill as Pierre, Frank Nelson as Perron, David Kerman as Officer, Warren McCullum as Griffon, Ross Forrester as Ferrol, Harold Daniels as Adjutant, and Charles Emerson as a Doctor. Mr. Marshall appeared through courtesy of Paramount and RKO Studios. Mr. Haviland, Warner Brothers. Mr. DeMille, Paramount. Lionel Atwill and Louis Silvers, 20th Century Fox, where the latter was in charge of music for the new film, Café Metropole. May I remind you now that next week will be National Cotton Week. All over the country, leading stores are featuring smart cottons attractively priced. Stop at your favorite store to see these exciting new clothes. A multitude of glamorous luxables to choose from. Smart stores everywhere are recommending the Easy Lux Way, which banishes wardrobe worry. Back now to Mr. DeMille.
A year ago at this time, I was up to my boot tops in preparation for my 63rd picture. In the marching panorama of events from 1865 to 1875, I hope to show the character of a group of great Americans, their mighty courage, and resounding struggles to open the western frontier to civilization. The picture is The Plainsman, and it makes me happy to announce that next Monday night, The Plainsman comes to you for the first time on the air in the Lux Radio Theater. Heard in the roles of Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane will be the stars who contributed so much to the success of the picture, Gary Cooper and Jean Arthur. Our sponsors, the makers of Lux Flakes, join me in inviting you to be with us again next Monday night when the Lux Radio Theater presents Gary Cooper and Jean Arthur in The Plainsman. This is Cecil B. DeMille saying good night to you from Hollywood. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
And that was Under Two Flags from 1937, starring Herbert Marshall, Lionel Atwill, and Olivia de Havilland. As I said earlier, you can also see the movie version on the Shot and Shield YouTube channel. It's under, the movie version is under the Shot and Shield Presents playlist. So there you go. However, our time thus has come to an end. And I'd like to give a special thanks to everybody who emailed in for this episode and for my partner in crime today, the best dressed man in our hobby, Wargaming's very own bon vivant, Claude Bailey, for joining me to help me, to help reinforce the Duke. With that said, you've been listening in Brisbane, Australia, Auckland, New Zealand, and White Plains, New York. This is the Shot and Shield Supercast, a podcast dedicated to 19th century wargaming and history, a program meant to be heard while you're painting your miniatures and building your terrain. I am your host, the Grand Duke Scott of the Duchy of Florida, and I'm out. This has been a production of the Experience 13 Podcast Network.
13! Your electricity.